Hey everybody, thanks for being here. This is the pre-show for Canary Cry News Talk. A couple things. I figured out why some of the text messages are not going through. It is not going to be fixed immediately, but I did figure it out. It is some bureaucratic nonsense, some documents, some files, some forms I gotta fill out. So I'll be doing that. I don't think it's going to correct the issue immediately, but figured it out. That's nice, you know, when you actually figure out why something isn't working. I mean, it's its own reward. Let's see here. Speaking of which, I did forget to put together the text message alert for today, and seeing as how it's not reaching most of you, I don't know if it's even worth my time, but I am going to do it anyways because I'm a creature of habit, as you all know. So as you know, it's funny, I'm talking to you guys about the text message alert, but you're already here, so you don't even need it. What am I doing? What kind of strange, hallucinatory, Matrix-like metaverse nonsense world am I living in? I'm talking to you, dear people, tuning in, about a text message that you don't even need. Yes, this is me just this is my brain on autopilot as I focus on writing this email. My time is up, I'm being told, and that's too bad. You're going to have to wait a couple more seconds. Produce the show is what I'm trying to type. There we go. Produce the show, exclamation mark, which is a good reminder for everybody. Thank you. There's a couple of you who came in during the Thanksgiving break, which was a nice gesture. We really appreciate that, reminding us that people are still thinking about us out there, even when we're taking a little break. The Thanksgiving break was actually much needed, more needed than I think either of us really realized. But there we go. Okay, text message is typed. Now I am sending it. Now we can start the show.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is November 28th, 2022. This is episode 564, and you know it. We're live to tape, baby. And today, DEFIED suddenly. And signing on from off the grid, Razzle Dazzle, I'm your best buddy Basil.
And my name is Gonz, formerly of the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, director of the Age of Deceit films, who also happens to be your favorite agent provocateur for Christ, aka the Cabana Boy, live to tape also here from California to serve you a podcast that brings you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And we've been off for a week. There's been a lot happening. And with today's immersion phenomena in that light is popcorn. Just get your popcorn out.
Get your popcorn. It's been a really entertaining break.
Lots of entertainment.
You know, as happens whenever we take a bit of a break, we're a little bit rusty. And Gonz, not to point any fingers, I am being told that for a second there, my voice did not exist on the live stream. But it looks like it's fixed now. So maybe I'm just sort of filling time while
Maybe.
I get my tabs in order.
Sure. Yeah. No, I see your sound, which means
okay. Good.
you're probably
Well,
there. So
nobody else is complaining, so we'll
Okay.
see. If people start complaining about long spans of silence on the show, then we'll know.
okay.
Thanksgiving break. What a long and pleasant break that was. That might have been the longest that the show hasn't appeared in quite some time.
A few months. Yeah.
You think a few months?
I think so. I think we had some kind of time off at some point this year. I recall, but I don't know.
recall. You did have that trip. Okay. Well, anywho, a lot of things going down. It actually was almost torturous how much stuff was going on during the break.
I know.
That was really hurting my feelings. So let me give you a rundown and we can jump right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
That's right, folks. And real quick, for all the content moderators, censorship managers, and be they robots or humans, everything you hear on the show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral or ethical implications of any of these topics. Nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. But we do have a rundown of some of the shows. First of all, Guns, some of the stories here. We left off at right before our big break. We have an update that should remind everybody just why it's so valuable to listen to the show and why it's so important for us to do the show to keep our sanity. After that, we'll be checking in with Flippy the robot. A couple of updates there first of all, with the San Francisco police force, which we reported on about a month ago, maybe more. An update with that story, as well as the NHS robo-doctors coming to the UK. Then, it's about time. We're going to be giving a breakdown of the situation in China. This has been a brewing for a little bit. The Chinese unrest. Where did it come from? Why is it there? And why do we think perhaps some American corporations might be helping out this grassroots effort to defy the CCP? Then we'll be checking in with Biden and his big moves on gas prices. It may include some things you wouldn't expect. And then some updates in the Epstein saga that we find it important to keep everybody abreast on. Then, died suddenly. We've got a response from the NIH, and it is literally the most clown world upside down nonsense that I've ever heard. And because of this, we will be turning off YouTube halfway through the show. So you're going to need to head on over to canarycry.party, find another outlet to watch live because it's too hot for YouTube. Then we'll also have another Wackchine update for a new exciting breakthrough in the vaccine development. And it's probably not for what you think. Or perhaps even a disease at all. And then we'll be ending out the show with a Nephilim cat update. All right, Guns, give us our lead stories.
Called it.
I tried to tell you.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, no, it was much longer than I expected. So we have a clip here from, well, it's actually CNN, but also us, mainly you, having a little conversation about the ClubQ shooter from, I believe, last episode, right?
That was right. Yeah, it feels like so much longer ago, but it was just last episode. The ClubQ shooting had just gone down. Lots of interesting things about initial reporting. We were just on initial reporting, not even on day 2 of reporting or whatever. And that was the suspicious part, not what was getting reported, but what wasn't getting reported.
Yeah.
And namely, the profiling of the suspected shooter, or the shooter, the suspect, legally speaking, was lacking some key features that we've gotten so accustomed to getting just within hours of any sort of mass shooting incident. You might remember me being very suspicious of the fact that they had not yet combed his social media. But we have an update. You've probably heard. It's been a while. But I want to thank producer Faye Liverin, one of our clippies, for putting this clip together. Gons, you threw a little sauce on there too. And we'll be putting this on the social media so people know. So people know that it's actually worth tuning into the show. What do you think? You want to just play the clip?
Yeah, well, for those of you watching on the screen, this is a weird inception going on because on our screen behind us is a screen of us. And then,
whoa.
Yeah, so we're wearing the same thing too. It's interesting. Okay, here's the clip all together.
What I don't see that I do see with every single other shooter is screenshots of his social media and pointing out that he was a Trump supporter. Bigot. Yeah. It makes me wonder what was actually on this kid's social media and if it's inconvenient to the national storyline that it's the crazy right-wing white supremacist incels who are committing all these crimes.
Yeah.
24 hours later.
Attorneys for the accused shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, say in new court filings tonight that the suspect now identifies as non-binary. In a footnote to a motion asserting legal privileges, the public defenders say, quote, Anderson Aldrich is non-binary. They use they, them pronouns, and for the purposes of all formal filings will be addressed as Mix Aldrich. So in other words, not Mr. or Ms. Are you guys lawyers? I mean, you know, I don't know if, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's what he's now saying.
What are they, conservatives now? What's going on over there?
I know. Hilarious. I'm sure most people have heard this already, but you know, it feels good to have your prediction come true in just 24 hours, Gons.
Yeah, pretty good.
And, you know, that's kind of the point here at Canary Cry News Talk. When you know what to look for, you know what's missing immediately. Yeah. And what was missing here, you know, you knew if they had just even an inkling of who this guy was, if he was some sort of right winger, that's all they would have been talking about. That would have been 100% the story on the very first report. And the fact that it wasn't there signaled immediately that something was very inconvenient. And notice, it wasn't until the publicly available court filings had gone on record that they brought this up. You know, we still haven't heard about his social media presence, his social standing, his blah, 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 blah. All you heard was, oh, he's from a conservative family. Oh, so you know what that means. And the hypocrisy, which, look, I know not everybody sort of gains the same sort of joy from the media and the sort of left's stranglehold on the media. Not everybody enjoys the hypocrisy as much as I do, but I've had a lot of fun over the past few days conversing with liberals on Twitter who trying to convince us that, he's just saying that he's lying. He's lying about his non-binary status because he's trying to avoid hate crimes. And the point is, the dude killed 5 people. He's done. He's done forever. I don't know exactly what he's going to get.
Whoa, bro! What do you? Don't incite. Don't imply violence.
No, I'm saying the court. He's for sure going away for the rest of his life. Whether or not this was a hate crime has absolutely zero bearing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's not like he's not going to get life no matter what. Yeah. So you know, he really had no reason to fake being non-binary, but the left's outrage that he would lie about this and he's just doing it to beat the hate crime charges, et cetera, really has been really entertaining because, oh my gosh, how if I was a lefty, I would be so concerned that this poor closeted non-binary person growing up in a conservative family, oh, finally he's coming out. I can't believe this is what it took for him to come out. He had to come out on a legal document. Oh, poor kid, poor person. But no. Of course, he's some sort of Trump supporter, just de facto Trump supporter. It's a very inconvenient situation for not just the reporting of this story, but for the entire meta narrative of Trump supporters being terrorists or right-wing, incels or whatever, being the main threat when it comes to gun control, gun violence, guns hopping out of the store on their own and murdering people. No.
Autonomous robot guns. They're going to be white supremacists, right? Once they are activated and they're roaming the streets, those are the white Christian nationalists. But they're robots, but they identify as white nationalist Christians.
It is a monkey wrench in the gears of the machine that is gun control arguments. And it's interesting because really when the left denies that this person could have possibly been non-binary, what they're saying is, as the right has been saying for a while, it's not the guns that kill people, it's the people that kill people. And anybody is capable of violence. As a human being, it is our fallen nature to be susceptible to whatever madness can possess somebody to do such a horrible thing. And to suggest that a non-binary person is not capable of this is literally and philosophically denying the personhood of non-binary people. And that's really what I thought was entertaining. Watching it unfold, not just on Twitter and social media and blah, 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 but on CNN and the mainstream media, implying that no, this person's gender identity couldn't possibly be what they claim it is, and undoing years of work for the movement, Gonzo. Can't believe it.
Do you think Chris Licht went to the lizard people, the throne, the council of lizard people, and was like, hey, we're ready. Throw us a curveball. Throw us something that we're not prepared for.
Put me in, coach. I'll show you.
President of CNN.
I just want to play that jingle.
That's right. And then, excuse me. Yeah. I'm feeling better as far as health goes, a little bit better. Obviously not 100%. I'll get into it later.
Yeah.
But yes, we also had the Walmart shooting, which was another horrible tragedy. Didn't hear much about that. It was a person of color. That type of thing. So.
Yeah, it's been interesting because it puts pressure on the mainstream to report a certain way. It's almost like it almost does feel purposeful, doesn't it? But I got into not a debate, but just a back and forth on Twitter with someone on a real James Woods thread that was deleted, and basically, saying like, hey, there's some patterns with these shooters with prior run-ins with authorities, usually the FBI, not always, but there's always some kind of history. With these young men usually.
Yeah.
And the person that I was talking to was like, oh, it's just, that's nonsense, whatever. And I grabbed 4 screenshots. And this is just real quick, off the cuff research to show something. And this is all from 2022. We have the Highland Park shooter, Robert Crimo. He had the run-in with the law in 2019. Why red flags weren't raised at the time. Then we have the Uvalde shooter who, come on, load Twitter. Family of Uvalde shooter Salvador Ramos have criminal records, right? And then we have the Sacramento shooter and the Buffalo shooter. Anyway, point being that this is always
of them having run-ins with the law in the past 2 years, 3 years at
very
most.
short. As soon as they are of age, or even before, sometimes they're on the list or on the radar. So this is not out of the blue. This isn't just an outside thing. And so given that context, the ClubQ thing is interesting because it is a shifting of it's almost like like a tailor-made operation, you know?
Yeah.
It's very convenient for the current political climate for this individual to be of, non-binary, at least.
Very inconvenient.
So, yeah.
And, and you'll notice that this was the last reporting done. There's not been any reporting. It's totally over. Same with the Walmart shooter. 48 hours later, not a single mention of it. It was interesting to watch the entirety of the response to the ClubQ thing was, it's the rhetoric. It's the rhetoric that led to this. The rhetoric that's allowed. And of course, it's connected to free speech and Twitter and Elon. So the whole thing, instead of doing their jobs as journalists and reporting the facts, this guy was non-binary, or gal was non-binary person was non-binary. Instead, they just said it's Elon's fault. Coincidentally, since we're on the gun control topic here,
gun violence is an epidemic.
It's an epidemic.
About 11 hours ago, Elon Musk tweeted a picture, which he added the text, "My bedside table."
Oh, right.
On his tweet,
yes.
And his bedside table is a very interesting bedside table.
Yeah.
You've got
some diet.
Excuse me.
Where's the Diet Coke? Yeah, hit that mute button. I'm pulling up the image here.
That's the caffeine-free Diet Coke there, the gold cans. Then he's got sort of a fake, cosplay gun of some kind. I don't know exactly what the reference of that gun is, but it's a cosplay gun, big 6-shooter thing. And then he's got one of these collectible musket pistols in a collectible box that has Washington crossing the Delaware painted on the inside of the box. And this is one of these historical collectible muskets, pistols sitting on a side table. So he's a weird dude, man. He's a weird dude, but he knows
what's that little golden, looks like some kind of staff thing, but it's really small.
It looks like the ends, the two ends of a fancy curtain rod. Yeah. But chopped off the curtain rod and put together. I have no idea.
That thing looks very Bond. You press a button and something pops out of somewhere.
Yeah, I was thinking what is it called? Da Vinci Code.
Right.
It's very Da Vinci Code
to the locked box of the Da Vinci Code or something. Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. All right, we called it, folks. That's why you listen to the show. You know what's going to happen before it does, and that's just what happens when you pay attention to what the mainstream news is doing and how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we are back today on a Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
That's right. Monday. We're back. Guns. Nice long break. Look, I said it in the pre-show. I'll say it again. I don't think either of us really realized that we needed a real break for the holiday.
Yeah.
I think it just sort of happened that it became impossible to do the show. But I definitely realized, holy smokes, we both really needed a second to catch our breath.
Yeah. It was nice to spend time with family and just not. The problem was there was so much breaking that, I was getting text messages and, checking email and stuff. It's just, it was crazy. So it was kind of nice to be like, okay, good. There's plenty of material, I guess, when we come back to chew on and to look at. But at the same time, I was itching. I was pretty busy on Twitter when I had opportunities. But
I noticed that for myself too.
Yeah,
much more active on Twitter.
Plus, the whole BitBoy in the Bahamas looking for Sam Bankman-Fried was breaking live on Twitter.
Yes, your buddy there on YouTube
my buddy,
is hunting down Sam Bankman-Fried like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, doing what the Department of Justice is not, apparently. But also, just real quick on that, it looks like Sam Bankman-Fried has agreed to do some kind of Twitter Spaces within the next couple of weeks with BitBoy Crypto. So Yeah, we'll get a direct line, and that's what's crazy is with Twitter Spaces, it's all happening live, and a bunch of people are just online and they're just there.
Yeah. Can we stream the show, even if it's just audio, to Twitter Spaces?
We could. It would require, I believe, a smart device and some gear that we can, but because it's meant for mobile, it's not really meant. You can listen to Spaces on a desktop, but you can't speak.
Can't broadcast.
Yeah, you can't broadcast or speak or do anything. So
okay, well, we'll look into that.
Yeah, we'll look into it. But yeah, interesting times. But yeah, it was nice to get away at least. And actually, even last night we had a little church Advent thing, and I forgot my phone in the car. And that was a huge blessing. I just forgot about. I know.
Survived
without a phone.
Service without a phone.
Yeah. But it was much needed, just to kind of get away for a little bit and refresh. So back at it. Feel good.
Quick update for people wondering about the text message alerts. I see some people in chat asking about it. Yes, I figured it out. Thank you for those who reached out. Let me know you weren't getting the text message alerts. I know it's been kind of happening, on and off for a little while. I finally figured it out. I spent some time with the customer support over there, and long story short, it's just a bureaucracy thing. There's some red tape we need to go through and register our number with blah blah blah. So hopefully, that process has already started. So hopefully the text message alerts will be fixed this week. That's the hope.
Why does the government need to know our text number?
Oh, marketing reasons, like all the laws surrounding. The laws surrounding text marketing, telephone marketing. Yeah. We need to be registered to not be blocked by some carriers. So, So there you go. Those are the fun little things about doing a podcast. It's not all fun and games. I'm sitting here blabbing, predicting the future.
I do want to just mention that. You are running on some very little sleep, so that for the rest of the show, our listeners and viewers, I think stick around. This Basil's on the verge of hallucinating from
it's gonna
lack
get
of
weird.
Sleep, so
it's gonna get weird, folks. It's gonna get real weird. I don't know what it is. Something during the break, actually, during the Thanksgiving break. I've been having an incredibly hard time falling asleep. Don't know why. Nothing's really changed. It's just not doing the show. Maybe maybe there's some pent up, emotions I'm not getting out by doing the show, because first it started with like not being able to fall asleep until like 3. I'm like, okay.
3 a.m.
3 a.m. Then the next, and this is me in bed, practicing my good sleep hygiene, laying in bed, brush my teeth, doing it regular
blindfold
stuff.
On.
Reading a book. Couldn't fall asleep till 3 the first night, 4:30 the next night, 6 o'clock a.m.
Going the wrong way.
Night. Yeah. Last night, the last time I looked at the clock, it was 7:30 a.m. in the morning. And
oh man.
And then of course at 7:30 I decide, okay, welp, I'm just pulling an all-nighter. We got to get started on the show soon. I got to go to work in like an hour and a half. I'm just pulling an all-nighter, and hopefully that will sort of reset the system. And the second I made the conscious decision to just not sleep, just absolutely lights out, conked out immediately. So I got about an hour and a half of sleep last night.
All right. That's enough. That's long. That's less than the length of the show, but I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, right. So the show was longer than I slept last night. So definitely gonna be kind of a weird show. My brain is I don't know, in space somewhere.
All right.
If there is such a thing.
Yeah, outside the firmament is what you're saying.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And with that, my brain might be gone, but you know who's not gone? The producers. Let's think an executive producer.
Executive producers.
That's right. We're on the value for value model, folks. And that means a few things, but it also means that those who get value from the show are responsible for keeping the show going. And they can put value back into the show with their time, their talent, or their treasure. Lots of ways to get involved with the show. And truly, the show would not exist without people understanding that when you take corporate money out of the equation, it takes a village, Gons, to raise a podcast. Yep. And like I said, there's lots of ways to produce the show, not just financially, but also with your time and your talent. But when people come in, carry a heavy load, support the show, are honest and generous with how much value they get out of the show and put it back in, oh, my goodness, it is a huge relief, and we call them executive producers. So we have one executive producer who came in for today's show, and I'd like to thank them now.
Let's do it.
Executive producer for episode 564 is producer Lotta.
Lotta. Thank you, Lotta.
Thank you very much, Lotta. Lotta's come in before. We appreciate you coming back. And Lotta came in with $333.77 plus fees. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
333.77. So generous. Thank you, Lotta. Comes in, says, reclaiming the numbers. Have a great show, Lotta. Pronounced Lotta. Thank you very much, executive producer Lotta.
Thank you, executive producer Lotta. It's a whole lot of love.
Where'd you find this?
Can we reclaim occult music too? Just like repurpose occult music to make it make it godly? No? Okay.
Is this because you're learning a song on guitar you're not supposed to be learning?
I don't know if I'm not supposed to be learning it. I think I'm just repurposing it. It's a really hard song to play, by the way.
Reclaim it. You can really reclaim anything for the Lord. All right. Thank you, executive producer Lotta. And here's the thing, folks. A couple notes real quick. We don't want to fill up today's show with housekeeping, but I do want to mention there is only 3 days left to sign up for the supply drop. And this is the only way to get the Canary Cry calendar.
Supply drop.
That's right. The Canary Cry supply drop is the best way to keep this show going. You know, if you don't want to, maybe you don't want to be super engaged. Maybe you don't have time to, even support the show on a regular basis. Of course, resources are always a thing too. But for $33.33 a month, that's $2.77 per episode, which is a pretty good deal. You can support the show on a monthly basis. And not only are you a producer of the show, keeping us going through the hard times, but you will also receive 4 shipments a year filled with producer produced, made in America, Canary. Really just as a free thank you gift that we put this together. And the fourth quarter, our year anniversary of doing the Canary Cry supply drop is coming up. The fourth quarter shipment goes out next month, which means that the deadline to sign up is the 30th, November 30th. Once the clock turns over in December.
That's super soon.
This is 2.5 days away. So if you've been waiting, now's the time to go to canarycrysupply.com. There's PayPal options. There's non-PayPal options. There's all sorts of ways to do it. But we really hope people get in on this one because this is the only way to receive the Canary Cry supply drop. Canary Cry calendar for 2023.
Yeah.
You may know about the calendar because Gons is always telling us the cool dates, the cool holidays, the cool anniversaries that are collected on the Canary Cry calendar by our wonderful producers that you won't find anywhere else. I think it is truly the most unique calendar that exists on the planet. Not only does it have special dates for, secret societies and conspiracy theories and geopolitics and technology and robots and the show, and also the biblical holidays also on there. When are you going to get all those wonderful things in one place? Nowhere, except for the Canary Cry calendar. But it's also chock-a-block filled with awesome art by Canary Cry artists. It's put together by Canary Cry producers, and it's one of the most beloved traditions around here.
Yeah.
And since we only have 3 days left, Gons, I think we have the final look at some of the art and cool stuff that's going to be on there, right?
Yeah. We're showing, for those of you watching, we're showing the entire catalog of art per month. And I got to tell you, this is incredible. This is
Yes.
just our milieu. It's improved. I didn't think we could improve upon last year's, but
No,
it feels
better
like
and
it's
better.
even, it's rounding its form even more, with all the producers, the artwork, and just the milieu. Really, it's the
It's
Canary Cry
really
community.
taking shape.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You'll see, of course, every month there's another piece of art from another artist. Artists like Christine C., Sir Salmons, Sir Darren out of the Hungry Pandas, Sir Dove, of course, is on the list.
Dame Alley.
Dame Alley, of course, is on the list. Yeah, it's really all the Christine C. I mentioned that one.
Oh, yeah,
it's all the hits. I mean, it's really a beautiful piece. The design is beautiful, chock-a-block full of references to stuff we talk about on the show, to current events. You got your favorite guys, Loch Ness Monster. You got your Burning Man. You got your Fauci. You got your Monarch Butterfly. It really goes as deep as possible.
Lest the Lord returns in like 100 years, when your great-great-grandchildren are going through your box of stuff, and they're like, look at this, 2023. I wonder what was going on. And then they see this, they're going to say, wow, the world was crazy, or at least the way these guys looked at the world is pretty wild, but very colorful, I would add.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I'm excited for it this year. Now, I mention this because it's the last 3 days to sign up. I hope people sign up for a couple of reasons. A, it's a really easy way to support the show. It's really, the supply drop producers, we're so grateful for, talk about Thanksgiving. We're so grateful for all the producers, but the supply drop producers especially. It's that power in large numbers thing. When enough people commit to supporting the show on a monthly basis, it's the only way we've been able to survive during this economic time is, the hundreds of people who sign up to support the show on a regular basis. And we're just so happy to bring them these cool objects. Yeah. Of course, the next supply drop will also have the very first official Canary Cry News Talk t-shirt, which we hope you get in on. And yeah, just go to canarycrysupply.com. Go sign up. It's a wonderful thing.
Waiting for supply drop.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
You there?
Oh, yeah. I lost you for a second.
Okay.
It's time for the Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways the robots are taking over the world and how there's nothing we can do about it. Today, the Flippy update. Well, there's two of them. There's a quick mention, Gons. A quick mention from The Verge. This is an update. For those who've been listening for a little while now, you remember we reported on the San Francisco Police Department, who tried to sneak in some language into their, proposal to the city council to allow them to use deadly force with robots. At the time, we kind of broke it down, and of course we know how sort of dystopian and horrible it is for police to have the legal ability to kill people with robots.
Yeah, especially after Boston Robotics said they wouldn't do it. They're like, hey, we're not.
Yeah. It's been, and it's a core principle of the Asimov, laws of robotics. Anybody read I, Robot or anything like that? You should know that robots is the law of robotics. Robots cannot harm humans. But they threw that out the window because San Francisco police consider letting robots use deadly force. Long story short, this is not the actual Flippy update, but just an update. They changed the language in their policy that they are requesting from City Council. And they just are outright blatantly asking for the ability to use deadly force robots. They're not trying to hide it anymore. They're not trying to sneak it in. No, they're just blatantly asking for it. It says here, the draft policy says, quote, robots can be used as a deadly force option when risk of loss of life to members of the public or officers is imminent and outweighs any other force option. So they tried to kind of wiggle it in there before. Now they're just outright asking for it. So we'll see what the San Francisco City Council has to say about that. But more importantly, Gons, Telegraph.com.uk has this headline. Sunak tells NHS to embrace robot workers as it prepares to sack staff. All right. Now, of course, we've heard over and over hundreds of times now on the Flippy update that robots are not here to replace you. They're here to work with you. They're here to make your jobs easier. But, you got to respect Sunak, the new prime minister of the UK. You got to respect him. Just like
Stanford.
Come on. Hey, I'm from Stanford. My parents are intimately involved with digital IDs across the world. And get ready to be fired, doctors and nurses. Embrace the robots. It's the only way we can keep NHS going. That's their National Health Service, which is the sort of crown jewel of UK social policy is their health service, their sort of semi-socialized medicine over there. And it's working out so well that they got to fire a bunch of people and bring in the robots. Now, it reads like this. Rishi Sunak has urged the NHS to embrace the use of robots as the health service prepares to cut its workforce by half in a drastic attempt to cut costs. Wow. Half of its workforce. Half of the entire country's medical system. I don't know exactly who that is, but that's doctors, nurses, receptionists, physician's assistants, pharmacy people, all these people, half of them are going in the can, replaced by robots. The prime minister said supporting innovation. See, Gons, we're not throwing half of our healthcare workers out on the streets. We are supporting innovation, was a, quote, defining focus of his premiership as he described more automation and investment in robotics as, quote, low-hanging fruit that will drive up pay and economic growth quickly. Oh, he makes a pretty good point, Cons. If you fire half of your workforce for the medical system of your entire country, that will free up some salaries that you can, give the remaining doctors a bit of a raise. Quote, if we can get that right with more robotics and automation, then we can drive up productivity. So not only is it cheaper and better for the remaining doctors, but it's actually more productive. Quote goes on, it reduces some of the pressure on labor. Yeah, when you fire half the workforce, you're going to need to take the pressure off somehow, and creates good jobs for people, he told an audience of business leaders in Birmingham. So, if you want to take this guy's advice, if you're a doctor, now you're canned. You're off the payroll over there in the socialized healthcare system. Just become a robot mechanic. I mean, you already proved you can go through, 12 years of schooling to work for the government, fixing people's health. Just go back for robotics. You'll be fine. It came as Mr. Sunak pledged to radically innovate Britain's health service with new technologies in a, quote, bold move that would challenge, quote, conventional wisdom in healthcare reform. Yeah. Firing half of the entire medical workforce does challenge conventional wisdom, Mr. Sunak. You've got that right. Ministers are drawing up plans to slash NHS England's 6,500 bureaucrats by as much as half, and to remove a swath of targets to allow hospitals to control over how money is spent. So they do say here, there's 6,500 bureaucrats. I think that's a very interesting, it's interesting because it really is that is demonizing language. It's calling someone a bureaucrat really is not a nice thing to do. Yeah. But see, it does tell you where the robots will be replacing. So in NHS, the National Health Service, it's their socialized medicine thing. I've mentioned that before. A lot of in these programs, there's a lot of bureaucracy. You got to decide who gets health care, who's worthy of having the state pay for their health care, who needs it the most, who provides the most value to the country, things like that. And, I don't like bureaucrats as much as the next guy, but the whole system runs on bureaucrats. To get rid of 6,500 of them, what are you doing? You're replacing a lot of those processes with robots, which means what? It means AI will be deciding who gets health care, who doesn't, who can wait a little longer for their surgery, who gets to go in the front door, who has to come in the back door. This is a direct handover of the health and lives. I mean, these are life and death decisions that are going to be handed over to AI. And, we've talked about AI taking control more and more of our civilization. Even in the U.S., if you are in a mid-sized metropolitan area, your city council has probably employed multiple AI systems to rule your city, and they don't tell anybody. They don't have to tell anybody. Yeah. And in that case, it's one thing to have your water bill calculated by an AI. It's another thing to have an AI tell you that you have to wait 6 months for a life-threatening surgery, which is already what people in the UK have to deal with. Skipping down in this article just a bit, growing NHS waiting lists have left a record 2.5 million people unable to work because of long-term sickness, with an extra 133,000 people falling out of the workforce for health reasons in 3 months to September alone. So I'm sure they're hoping that the AI will speed up the bureaucracy at the NHS. They're going to be making a case. They are making a case that, the wait lists will be shorter. This is a great way to get public support. Tell them that when the robots take over, the wait list, you won't be put on a wait list. But what what the people may not see coming is that if a robot doesn't think that you are of enough value to society, then you might be put in the back of the line more often than not. And there's your FLIPPY update for the day, folks.
Yeah, I think you covered it all. I was only going to mention that this sort of thing, I always bring it up when we have stories like this, but the very first episode we did when lockdowns started, I think we call it like the quarantine marathon or something, I forget, but I believe it was on that episode where we explicitly stated that this is an opportunity. This will be the shift where robots will come in, especially in the
COVID. Service is explicitly the paradigm shift for robots taking over healthcare.
Yeah. So we pretty much called it on that, and not that we're so ahead of its time. I mean, people saw this coming, but it's just so convenient.
Well, you know what? Not really. I mean, look, I don't want to not be humble, but until recent years, like literally the COVID years, nobody was paying attention to this, especially in the mainstream. I'm not saying we were the only ones, but we were the crazy idiots on the internet talking about robots taking over everything, being called conspiracy theorists for it. Yeah. And it's a different time. Now this is just normal mainstream media talk.
I'm for the robots.
All right. Well, let's get on with some China.
Welcome to Chinese news.
Comes from China. China. China.
All right. Well, over the week where we were laying low, everything was exploding. China was exploding.
Indeed.
Literally, there was a railroad that exploded that was caught on video. But the big story here from Reuters, headline, blank sheets of paper become symbol of defiance in China protests. And all of a sudden, we're seeing all kinds of, I guess, tangible protests in China. I mean, not that they've always kind of been in protest, against the government and all that stuff, but it seems to be picked up in the Western media a lot in the last week, specifically, and it's a lot of tie-ins to some things going on. So
yeah, real quick, I want to let you start. There's an interesting difference though here, and this has really caught my attention during the work hours the past few days. Is there is a lot to learn about what exactly is going on over there now. One of the things that is separating out these protests from normal Chinese protests is the wide-ranging activations of protesters.
Yes.
China, claims to let people protest, and more or less they will let localized, small groups protest for a very specific small local problem. One in one city about this one factory and working conditions on, this one from this one company, something like that. They'll kind of allow that. But the difference is when you have, 100 different cities and thousands of different groups all protesting at the same time, that is when they start to get a little uneasy. And that's one of the big differences now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And, okay, yeah, let's keep going here. The article states, Chinese protesters have turned to blank sheets of paper to express their anger over COVID-19 restrictions in a rare, widespread outpouring of public dissent that has gone beyond social media to some of China's streets and top universities. Images and videos circulated online showed students at universities in cities including Nanjing and Beijing holding up blank sheets of paper in silent protest, a tactic used in part to evade censorship or arrest. China is adhering to its tough zero COVID policy even while much of the world tries to coexist with the coronavirus. Yeah, where the rest of us are trying to coexist with China, not China. The latest wave of anger was triggered by an apartment fire that killed 10 people on Thursday in Urumqi, a far western city where some people had been locked down for as long as 100 days. Fueling speculation that COVID lockdown measures may have impeded residents' escape. In Shanghai.
That's a soft way of putting it.
Yeah. There's a lot of euphemism. In Shanghai, a crowd that started gathering late on Saturday to hold a candlelight vigil for the Urumqi victims held up blank sheets of paper, according to witnesses and videos. Get that keyword in there. Blank sheets of paper. One widely shared video said to be from Saturday, which could not be independently verified, showed a lone woman standing on the steps of the Communication University of China in the eastern city of Nanjing with a piece of paper before an unidentified man walks into the scene and snatches it away. Other images showed dozens of other people subsequently taking to the university steps with blank sheets of paper, illuminated against the night sky by flashlights from their mobile phones. A man could later be seen chiding the crowd for their protest. Quote, "One day you'll pay for everything you did today," he said in video seen by Reuters. Quote, "The state will also have to pay the price for what it has done," end quote. People in the crowd shouted back. Widespread in-person protests are rare in China, where room for dissent has been all about eliminated under President Xi Jinping, forcing citizens mostly to vent on social media, where they play cat and mouse games with censors. Similar sheets of paper could be seen held by people gathering at the grounds of Beijing's prestigious Tsinghua University to sing the Chinese national anthem on Sunday. Protesters were advised to bring a sheet of white paper to at least one planned demonstration, according to tips being shared in chat groups seen by Reuters. Then it goes into Hong Kong 2020, a little bit more history. This is, again, you kind of pointed out the unusual nature of what's happening here compared to past protests, but I also do find it intriguing that it's being picked up in the West. It's the new freedom platform, Twitter, really exploding with this story, sharing the videos and whatnot. But, the sentiment is out there, which is my first sort of gut reaction to it was similar to others out there. You know, we saw the videos of people falling flat on their faces right before COVID. Oh, China's stuff's going on. So
yeah, certainly hard to believe things coming. You know, if anything is able to make it out of China, you have to consider why is it let out.
Yeah, why?
Now, here's the thing. I've done a ton of reading and listening about this.
Yeah,
by
you don't
no
sleep,
means
man.
am I. Yeah, yeah, right. I've had a lot of time.
You just listen and watch
It's amazing
China.
how much research you can do, Gons, when you've got an extra 9 hours a day. So, a couple of things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
We reported when Xi Jinping held the big conference where he got basically confirmed as dictator for life.
Yes.
We reported on that, where the old guy got drawn away, got taken out very publicly, humiliated.
Wasn't his name Hugh or
something like that? Yeah. Now, here's one thing that happened. That guy getting sort of hauled away opened up a space at the right hand of Xi. And the right hand of Xi was then handed over to the leader of one of the provinces, basically as a reward for effective COVID oppression. He did the best job of oppressing the people, keeping everybody locked down. He kept them locked down longer.
Award.
He
Best totalitarian.
Kept them locked down better, got locked down longer, kept public perception up, all these things. He basically was rewarded.
He's the winner, yeah.
Yeah, he won the contest of who could out Chinese government the Chinese government. And so
who could hold my beer the best?
Exactly. He got promoted for doing this. Now, what this did was set a precedent where then all the other CCP rulers of the different cities and provinces said, oh, okay, so that's what we got to do to rise up in the party. So right after that, COVID started popping up again in China. They have a zero COVID policy. So all the leaders of cities and provinces were then told again, okay, lock them down. We got more COVID coming in. We're zero COVID. Who can do the best job? And so you have all these mayors and governors and all these guys who know exactly how to get promoted. And boy, howdy, did it become a heated competition for who could lock down the Chinese populace the best. And this is where it all started. These lockdowns, this recent round of lockdowns, were so intense. They were barricading. They had these mobile barricades where if a building was decided it needed to be locked down, they would barricade the building where people literally could not go down the stairs. They would put barricades in the stairwells. They would put up steel doors on the doors of the building. They would chain the entire, but you could not leave if you wanted to. This was not cameras would see you and you'd get a ticket. This was you physically could not leave the building. And this was happening everywhere. And of course, people were mad about this. But then came the fire. There was a fire and the people were barricaded inside. And so, because of the zero COVID, because of bureaucrats wanting to get a promotion, people were locked inside of a burning building. This set off everybody. Now, to the blank paper thing. The blank paper thing is actually not originating here in this particular protest. It's been, I forget where the first thing was, but this has actually come up a couple times in China and around other places in the world where, because of censorship, holding up a blank piece of paper says more than anything you could put on that paper. Right. And people have even before this, have gotten arrested for holding up blank pieces of paper. I believe Australia was the first time I saw this, where an Australian protester held up a blank piece of paper. Cops walked up to him. They said, "What's up with the blank piece of paper?" He said, "Oh, I didn't write anything on it because I didn't want you to censor it." And they said, "What would you write on it if you could?" And he said, something like, whatever, down with the Australian government. And they arrested him because he was holding a blank piece of paper and said what he would have written on the paper. So that's where this blank paper thing is coming from. And one thing I've found useful about the blank paper thing is it's so unique that the videos you see coming out with blank paper, it's an easy way to tell if the video you're watching is from right now, or from something else. That's always been a big problem with media coming out of China, is they reuse footage. The government will release reused footage for all sorts of reasons, for propaganda mostly, or entirely. So when you see these blank pieces of paper, it's kind of a signal like, hey, no, this is new. This is a new movement. This is a new video, et cetera, et cetera.
I found a little Axios thing here that says that after the invasion of Ukraine, there were scattered incidents in Russia of people holding up these blank signs. And then, the Kremlin.
It's been kind of like a worldwide thing, like little grassroots type of tactic, new protest tactic, specifically in the censorship age. Now, where was I? Blank pieces of paper. Yeah. Okay. So there's also been, like you mentioned, a lot of criticism about, why are we even getting these photos or these videos? Like, this is very suspicious. And I agree. It is always suspicious what you get out of China. Mm-hmm. However, there's been a lot of, now that Twitter is Elonified, there's been a lot more of these Chinese dissenters allowed on Twitter, not getting kicked off of Twitter.
Oh, you mean like the Epoch Times folks there, the anti-communist folks.
For example, Falun Gong is one example. But there's been some pretty good documentation of Chinese dissidents, basically saying, I got this out of the country by hiding a USB drive in my mouth on something, blah, 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 wherever you can hide a USB drive. So I don't know. I think it is really happening. Now, why is it happening? Why now? Now, of course, the reasoning put forth by the protesters is quite good, but still pretty odd that it's allowed to have gotten this big, considering how could all of these different cities and provinces all coordinate protests at the same time, using the same tactics, doing for the same reasons, when their WeChat, they have zero communication privacy. And China is famous for just being able to hit a button and delete any mention of any word or anything.
Right.
The fact that that's one of the weird parts about this is there's so many of these protests happening at the same time in different places. Well, an interesting thing caught my eye, Gons, and this is a CNN article, which I'm seeing now never got linked in our document. So I will get you that document, that link in a second as I pull it up here. Oh no, it's gone. No, give me 1 second. CNN. Well, the headline says something to the effect, this is the search term I am using to pull it back up if anybody wants to follow along at home. CNN, Apple losing $1 billion a week due to coronavirus lockdowns in China. Here we go.
I got it. Apple has a huge problem with an iPhone factory in China from 2 days ago.
That's right. Mine is loading up right now. Very slowly.
That is
Apple customers. Oh yeah, no, that's the wrong one. Yes, the one you have is correct. If you want to stick that link somewhere that I can do it.
Yep, Apple has a huge problem with.
That's right.
iPhone factory.
That's the one.
I'm hyperlinking that little thing you wrote there.
Thank you very much. Okay, CNN.com. Apple has a huge problem with an iPhone factory in China. and this is CNN. They're following this story. A violent workers' revolt. This is 2 days ago, by the way.
Posted at 5:33 a.m. Continue.
They're calling it a workers' revolt on CNN. Weird how there's this strange.
Yeah, I was going to say, interesting how these protests were happening at the same time as the COVID protests.
No. This isn't that super famous protest going on about COVID. Certainly, the Chinese people would not be protesting against COVID lockdowns, but at a workers' revolt at the largest iPhone factory this week in central China is further scrambling Apple's strained supply and highlighting how the country's stringent zero COVID policy is hurting global technology firms. And so CNN tries to pin this on a Foxconn factory. Certainly, Foxconn is not a good actor. Apple basically uses slave labor. There's been some improvements in recent years, but it's not a good scene. But what they're not telling you is that due to COVID lockdowns at all, so when these governors and mayors lock down a city and nobody can go to work at the Apple factory, Apple is losing $1 billion a week. That's $4 billion a month. That's $48 billion a year. It's a huge amount of money. It is a stupid policy that the CCP is putting out here. The zero COVID policy is oppressive and just scientifically not helpful. And at the same time, Apple, one of the biggest corporations in the entire world, is losing $1 billion a week. So it stands to reason, Gons, when you have, we're in America. We understand that if the corporations don't like a social movement, then that social movement doesn't go anywhere. And if the corporations do like a social movement, and they see how they can make money from supporting a social movement, then they are more than happy to do what they need to do to help this movement cause a ruckus. And so I believe that a lot of what we're seeing in China right now, I believe it is grassroots. I believe people do want to stop the zero COVID policy, but I believe that there's a little bit of help in the communications realm to help plan these things, to help foster the grassroots movement, because it'll make Apple $1 billion a week. And, it's one example of why China specifically really doesn't like U.S. corporations messing around in their country, because U.S. corporations are not afraid to,
stir up a grassroots social movement. Yeah. Start protesting
down the government.
Yeah. And so by the way, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, so on one hand, you got to, why are we seeing so much coverage? How are dissenters able to technologically get videos out? How are they able to communicate and coordinate all these protests? How? It would take, one of the largest tech companies in the world to make ways for them to do this, and garnering support from the West, from the U.S., to put pressure on the Chinese government in the name of anti-COVID policy, or whatever you want to call it, just so happens to also be making Apple $1 billion a week. And that's how you really get a social movement going, folks. You got to figure out a way for a gigantic corporation to make money from it. And then, I love the way that it shows how, in the U.S., corporations are all on board with the COVID lockdowns, the COVID whatever, because certain corporations, Amazon, other multi-billion-dollar corporations, make more money when we're locked down, and it puts small businesses out of business, so then drives more market share to the big boys. Well, and in the same way, they can take a totally different stance in another country as long as it makes them money. These corporations, they do not care about your social movement. They just care about your money.
Yeah. there's some people out there, well, I'll call him out, BitBoy Crypto. He was saying we must, go with certain crypto stuff and fight against the Great Reset and prevent the Great Reset. And my whole thing was, the Great Reset is happening. It's been happening. We've been on a slow roll reset. And one of the biggest players, I think, in the reset has to be Apple. They are one of the largest tech companies out there, or are they the largest? I mean, their market share is $2.3 trillion is their evaluation. They're humongous. So yes, what the turmoil with Apple, whatever is the end game there, that's going to play out, in my opinion. And to that effect, the stuff that was breaking today was Elon Musk on Twitter asking about, hey, why Twitter, Apple, why are you dropping advertising with us? And I have this funny tweet here from Elon, because Elon he's retweeting Watcher.guru, which says Apple takes 30% tax from app developers who make over $1 million through the App Store on an annual basis. And then Elon, retweeted it and said, did you know Apple puts a secret 30% tax on everything you buy throughout the App Store? And then, of course, Elon's the owner of Twitter right now. But then there's a little extra box. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. And then it's got a little thing. This is not a secret. Apple takes a 30% fee from all sales made through their purchases.
It's not a secret. That's the fact check.
That's the fact check. It's not a secret. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. And yeah, Elon is really stirring up Apple's, just their advertising on Twitter, calling him out. This is some main actors in the game starting to play their part, it seems. It's getting good. That's why I said get out the popcorn. It's starting to get real good.
Yeah. Now, and by the way, Apple lawyers, I'm not saying that Apple is doing any of this, but I'm certainly saying if anybody had the power to help this happen and the motive to help this happen, Apple would be an example of one of these companies that has both the power and the motive. They are a wonderful profit-making corporation. So on one hand, they can support free speech and freedom in China and support oppression of speech in the U.S. and not have a single qualm about it, because they are fiduciarily obligated to do whatever makes them the most money for their shareholders. So they're really not even in an ethical quandary. They're just doing their jobs, keeping the stock price up.
Yeah, and taking sort of a step back and looking at the bigger picture, the greater sociological effects that this will cause, and I think will continue to cause this type of thing. Maybe with a more of a split between Apple and China itself, and a severing there. We'll see what happens. But I think if you look at California, what's one of the big problems in the state of California here is homelessness. It's also the same state as big tech, ironically enough. So if we're looking at the patterns here in China, I think we're leading towards a similar type of situation. And this speaks into partly the cyber pandemic conversation that Klaus Schwab's been discussing, but also this idea of a network state, a creation of these citizens, these sort of cyber citizens that belong to different subgroups that are geographically scattered about, and part of the the rise of decentralized nations, so to speak. And
citizenship not being relegated to a geopolitical area on Earth, but a participation in a network coincidentally mirrors the sort of Christian idea that we are citizens of heaven, and not of Earth. It's sort of a reflection or a counterfeit of the spiritual idea of heavenly citizenship, that sort of thing.
So in that regard, I was looking at homelessness, and I found a couple interesting resources that people can check out. This first one is from The Lancet, the real prestigious medical journal, The Lancet.
Yes.
And they have an article here that was published on August 1st of 2022, and it's titled Mental Health of Homeless People in China Amid and Beyond COVID-19. And it just have a couple highlights here. The situation is often profoundly worse in low and middle income countries like China, talking about homelessness. It is estimated that 300 million people in the country, home to 1.4 billion Chinese, are homeless. 300 million, Basil. That's basically the population of America.
It's the entire population of America is homeless in China.
In China. That is unbelievable. However, despite the scale of this issue, China does not have a robust health and social infrastructure, preventative and proactive systems that can ensure people have stable and sustainable access to opportunities that are essential to their surviving and growth for homeless people. Then later it says here, while conditions are already alarming, the pandemic could further compound the situation. To control COVID-19, China is substantially reliant on measures such as partial or full lockdowns. Though necessary to curb virus spread, these strategies could nonetheless cause unintended consequences, such as the loss of homeless people's access to food, shelter, and essential health services. And then it goes into a little study that talks about pandemic control and the effects of the homeless population in China. And at the very end of this particular article, it says, as members of the international community, China has an irrefutable duty and a responsibility to protect and promote the betterment of humanity, yada, yada, yada. The time to act is now. I love how political, or social the Lancet is in this thing. It's like, yes, we need a movement.
A science journal.
Time to act is now.
Start a revolution.
It's really bizarre. But it speaks to this idea of homelessness becoming a problem. And what are they going to do? They're probably going to join these cyber nations. And as a sort of an example here, everybody knows about Ready Player One, but I did dig this out from CBS New York from 2018. The article is titled Ready Player One, one college student goes from homeless to excelling in video game world. And basically it's a little anecdotal, personal story type thing, or personal interest, I guess, where, kid is homeless, and then he just dedicates his time to learning how to code, and then he is a developer now. And more importantly, he has a place to live, and this sort of idea of and this is before the metaverse conversation. The word metaverse was really in the milieu. Working in the metaverse will keep you going from homelessness to, the excelling in that computing world.
Right.
And so if we're looking at the patterns, we're just kind of looking at where this is all headed. It seems like everybody, especially if there's a homeless population that is, going to boom more in China, it would be interesting to see how the technological infrastructure gets distributed, and maybe Apple is part of providing the counter revolution in China to be able to access the cyber nation status kind of thing, And
well, and of course it would be American tech companies that would be in the place, have the resources and the motivation and the ability to sort of create this sort of onboarding social movement.
It's an onboarding,
right,
operation. And just along those lines, and this is just to, again, prove the point. This is Reuters headline here from a few days ago, November 24th. Virtual reality tools offer escape to blockaded Gaza youth. So
interesting.
Again, we're seeing this sort of these people that don't have a home being able to access VR. And it says here, the owner of Gaza's first virtual reality gaming cafe is offering a fantasy world of action, music, and sports to young people who have grown up under the blockade. And there's a quote here, quote, "I move into cities, different places, mountains and oceans, cities that are impossible for us to visit," said 22-year-old Yosef Al-Qadari. And then, quote, "Since we're blockaded and it is difficult to travel and move from one place to another, we come to VR and make up for all these things that we live and we live it in virtual reality," said 16-year-old Nisreen Shamalak as she put on her headset. So already the youth is being really pressured into the metaverse, and it's going to create just, if you have these new network state cyber nations, you need citizens. And I feel like this is that point, and part of the point of the Great Reset is to fracture civilization. Everybody retreat, all the nations retreat, whatever. But really what you're doing is creating, because we all have access to the internet, we're creating this opportunity to reshuffle the deck and reset the boundary lines, and create the political systems for quote unquote globalism, the world government system. You kind of need the divide and conquer methodology. You need the two sides. It can't really be one. They've shown that it doesn't really work with just one figurehead authority. People are against that. So you need that divide and conquer, create the two parties, create that cyber nation, freedom, whatever. And that's kind of what Elon is spearheading.
Right. And the core of this, going back to the WEF, remember that this battle between governments and corporations, we've been talking about this for many years now. Yeah. The future belongs to whoever wins versus, governments v. corporations. And of course, we've seen out of this struggle, data becoming the new oil, as has been reported for years now. Yeah. And the corporations have control of the data. And they're using that to create, like you say, digital nations. And right now, it's a bit of a philosophical concept, but with the metaverse, with NFTs, with, each one of these things has been a step towards the digital citizenship we've been talking about. And what are you digital citizens of? Not governments, not nation states in the proper sense, but of you are a citizenship of a network, and those networks are controlled and operated mostly by corporations. And in the WEF charters, in the WEF plan, they talk about stakeholder capitalism. And the stakeholders, in that sense, the private-public partnerships, they're talking about bringing governments and corporations closer in league together, not just in their separateness, but in their sameness, where corporations have a more intimate influence and role to play in the governing of human beings. And, not just in sort of a digital metaphorical sense, but in a literal sense when it comes to, the citizenship, the devotion, the loyalty, the resources, the going in and out, all of this, joining, it even goes to the laws being passed in the U.S. allowing corporations to start their own cities and, claim actual territory. This has been a long-standing game that we've been analyzing for many years now when it comes to the technocratic utopia. And we're seeing some very interesting strides, and yet it is still just in its infancy.
Yeah, 100%. One just real quick point on that. There was a story that we dropped for today. I just want to mention it briefly because I think it's relevant to what you're talking about there and what we've been discussing here. And this is, again, Reuters. Headline, UCLA Law School joins exodus from U.S. news rankings as movement expands. And again, This is sort of a reshuffling going on. The evidence, once you start seeing things in this light, you'll start noticing that all these big institutions are starting to kind of reshuffle, unplug from traditional ways and plugging into new systems. And I found yeah.
Have you been following this whole law school things?
A little bit.
The news rankings?
A little bit, yeah.
It's really spooky. Did you know that you don't even need to take the LSAT anymore?
Yes, I know.
Get into law school?
I know. So, yeah.
And this is part, a lot of people are saying, this is wonderful. We don't need to rank schools, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, they're leaving because they don't want to take the LSAT anymore. Yeah. And LSAT scores is a prime measurement for these rankings of schools. So these law schools are leaving participation in the ranking system and getting a bunch of social points for it. But what it signals is a literal end to quantitative qualifications,
qualifications
for law school.
For law school, yeah.
Meaning there is no numbers, there is no test score, there is no grades, there is no.
As long as you woke enough, you can be a lawyer.
Exactly. There is no quantitative measurement for does somebody get into law school anymore or not. And what does that mean? It means a board that decides the new students can literally go off of anything they want. Yeah. They don't have to have good test scores. They don't have to have good grades. As long as they fit the demographic requirements, the social requirements, the ideological requirements that these schools want to instill in the next generation of lawyers, that's who they get to let come into their school. There is no test scores anymore that even matter. And this is bad for a lot of reasons. A, you're going to have a lot of people getting accepted to law school who are not prepared or capable of doing the work of the not the woke work, the school work. I mean, can you imagine me getting let into law school because I knew the right ideological things to write on a resume or whatever you do to get into law school, and I know nothing. I'm a horrible test taker. I don't study. I don't do anything these things. But I get accepted to law school. I take $70,000 in loans, and I get there and say, "Oh, this is impossible. I am not going to pass any of this." And now I'm stuck with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of student loan debt that gets passed on to my children when I die, and I'm not able to pass the bar. Because you still got to pass the bar to be a lawyer. And, just because you get into law school doesn't mean you can pass the bar to be a lawyer. It is a huge disaster, not only for society, but also for the students themselves. This is bad on all sorts of levels.
Yep, and tying it back to China real quick, the history of the U.S. and China when it comes to laws and regulations is, obviously, long, many years, decades. But this sort of thing, especially with kind of the woke context of the situation here with the law schools, it just makes me wonder, the intertwining between the U.S. and China when it comes to corporations, when it comes to universities and everything else, the unwinding of that is sort of almost planned. It's almost like when we start unraveling this thing, a lot of infrastructure is going to fall apart.
It is meticulous.
Yeah.
It is a meticulous deconstruction of society.
Yeah.
I mean, you can almost imagine it like a spinstress or like a seamstress taking a piece of a jacket and taking that little that hook thingy, that hook thingy that cuts seams, and she's just going through seam by seam and just ripping out all the seams that is keeping that jacket together. It is so meticulous and so purposeful. It is really an engaging and entertaining thing to watch as some sort of vagrant podcaster. Who lives out in the desert off grid. It's an entertaining thing for me to watch, but it's scary nonetheless.
Well, it is one of those things where as citizens of the kingdom of God, it's like, okay, we can see all this happen and we don't have to be afraid of any of it because we know
Christians have been on the network citizenship for a while now.
Yeah, it's been the thing since the word kind of explained it. So there you go.
There we go. And with that, I think we should take a little break. Thanks some producers.
Go to canarycry.party. Put it in your URL. Canarycry.party is a place with a tree of links to everything from where to watch the show, listen to the show, support us, connect with us in the community.
That's right. Go check it out. All sorts of great stuff over there at canarycry.party. You can get connected to our communities, our many communities. You can go to canarycry.community, which is a social media platform just for Canarians. Don't worry about any of those pesky Facebook algorithms or anything. You can also get in the Discord. I highly recommend getting in the Discord channel. You can listen to other pieces of media that we create, like Ravel. Ravel's a podcast I do with Dr. Christopher Ryan Gates, who's got a PhD in biblical interpretation. We explore society, scripture, and scandal, having tough conversations in good faith. You can listen to it right on canarycry.party. We got a new episode of that coming out today, so go subscribe to that on Apple Podcasts and other places. You can also join our text message alert system. I mentioned before, yes, we are registering the number, so people should start receiving text messages this week again. But if you're not on the list, go text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. That's Canary to 877-740-3226. You can also, there's all sorts of great stuff. Canary Cry Clips channel, I believe, is still suspended. I will be appealing that today. Yeah, and thank you. I want to say thank you to all the people who have been engaging with us on Twitter. That's been really helpful, actually. Lots of breaking through the algos. We both did our, are you shadow banned test over the holiday break. Yes, we are both extraordinarily shadow banned. So interacting with our stuff really helps us with that. Yep. And with that, let's thank some producers.
Let's take a break.
It's break time! Come on, take a break.
That's right. We're on the value for value model, folks. And, I'll save you the whole rundown. I've given it to you before. It just means we don't take any corporate money, none whatsoever. And we are entirely funded by people who get value out of this program. And it's not just us asking for donations or charity or whatever. It really is sort of a mental revolution. It's setting your mind free from the idea that you can, that you just get whatever you can for free because a corporation will pay for it. Well, when corporations are paying for it, that means you are the product. You are in this case, if we are advertising to you, that is us selling your brain to corporations. Now, that is simply just the idea of advertising, but there's other ways, Gons. There's other ways that value for value frees you from the clutches of the system. And look, we've cataloged a few ways that the system traps us just in this episode alone, how we don't even notice it. But the trends and forces and powers that are really in control of things use us. They use us for all sorts of purposes that we don't want to be used for. And unfortunately, as we said before, independent media is not immune from being a tool of this system. Once you start taking corporate money for advertising, once you start, renting out the personal information of your listeners, it's another way that the system is set up to trap independent media creators like Gons and I into selling you, dear listener. But that's not how we do it. But there is someone out there who does do it.
Everybody loves waffles.
That's right. It's the man himself. Everybody loves waffles. Ben Shapiro. It came out recently. Now, we've made fun of Ben Shapiro for his advertising talent recently.
He's brilliant.
For a long time.
He's able to weave advertisements into Biden bashing better than anyone I've ever seen.
I want to brag about producer Caleb. Producer Caleb created a GIF on Twitter recently, shared it with us. Thank you very much, producer Caleb. And he created this Ben Shapiro GIF in our honor, and it's Ben Shapiro, and he's saying everybody loves waffles, and he's got waffles pouring out of his mouth and piling up on the floor in front of him. He's got his very, very serious look on his face while he's doing this, which is a literal advertisement that he did during one of his programs.
Everybody loves waffles.
But it came to light through one of I believe he was a producer over the Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, Jeremy Boring.
Yeah. Yes. He's a producer for Ben Shapiro. Got in a little tiff with Kanye West, actually. Yes.
Who got in a tiff with Trump? You hear about that? Trump yelled at him? I guess that's what this is about.
Kanye's getting in a battle with everybody. But through this little tiff with Kanye West, this Ben Shapiro producer revealed that they rent their email lists out to politicians.
Oh, wow.
For hundreds of thousands
Wow.
of dollars. They were talking about $100,000 that Kanye, something or other. They were talking about $100,000. And this producer says, "Oh, trust me, Kanye, we make way more than $100,000 by renting our email list out to politicians." So if you are on Ben Shapiro's email list, just know that he's getting paid possibly millions of dollars to let politicians like Trump, mostly GOP
Well,
folks,
DeSantis and Trump is mentioned in the Jeremy Boring
mentioned
tweet.
by name.
Yeah.
By name, DeSantis and Trump rented Ben Shapiro's email list for more than $100,000, we can say. And that's another example of the value for value system. We do not rent out your personal information to politicians.
That's so disappointing. It really should be not the end, obviously, but just a real black mark on the whole Shapiro.
We've always made fun of their funding structure just because they're worse than CNN, basically. They're basically the same as CNN.
Yeah, you're right.
Just doing it for the other side.
Yeah.
And it's really horrible for many reasons, but even more so, it's horrible for the very idea that we would gather not just your attention and sell it, but your personal information and rent it to politicians, agents of the left-right paradigm. Yeah. I mean, it is just so sad.
Well, I mean, it's I can see the temptation. You're a political channel.
Yes.
You're speaking against the wokeism and the leftism and the progressivism. Yeah, you've garnered a huge following, and then DeSantis, the Trumps comes to you and say, "Hey, you got a fantastic show. We want to borrow your people. We're just not going to do anything. We're just going to send them emails every 10 seconds.
Fundraise 10 seconds. Yeah.
Call you Darwin. We're going to name everybody, whatever. But just it must be tempting when they dangle all this money in front of him for just letting you borrow. And how does that work? Borrow the email list? What kind of? I mean, okay, we'll give it back to you. Yeah, okay, all right.
They rent the email list. It is truly horrific.
Rent email lists.
Just another example of why value for value, is not the best way.
No, this is like the seed of money.
This is not the most profitable way for us to be doing this, but it's the only way we can sleep at night. And
we're not apparently.
Which apparently I am not doing. Even when producership gets down to the levels we've been at recently, we still do not rent out our email list. We just lose sleep. That's all we do. We just don't sleep. So anyways, there you go. There's another reason why the value for value model is not just asking for donations or whatever. It is truly a revolution against those who would wish to monetize your mind and your personal identity for the purposes of making a buck. So producers, that's you guys. That's anybody. You can go to canarycryradio.com/support if you want to join the revolution. canarycryradio.com/support. That's right. You can produce the show with your time, your talent, or your treasure. But we're going to thank some producers who came in financially. We're very appreciative. Yep. So we thanked executive producer Lotta at the top of the show. Yes. Got a few more people to thank, starting with Spears Desert.
Spears Desert. Good to see you.
Yes. Spears Desert is back. He comes in with 3333. Thank you very much, Spears Desert.
Thank you, Spears Desert.
Next up, we got producer Arnold W. coming in.
Arnold W.
3333.
Thank you, Arnold W. Good to see you.
Yeah, wonderful to have both of you guys back.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got producer Lily of the Valley coming in.
Thank you, Lily of the Valley.
Yeah, came in with 1517, which I'll tell you about the number in a second. Lily of the Valley is he's a no agenda fella.
Ah, yes, that's right. That's where I recognize the name.
Yes, I went to a No Agenda meetup and I met Lily of the Valley. So what's up, Lily of the Valley? Thanks for supporting the show. He sent in a note here. Says, Basil and Gons, thank you for your ministry. What you do brings more value to my life than I can return. This amount is the remaining balance on a gift card that is expiring this month. I'd like to challenge other producers to do the same. If you have a gift card that has a balance and you don't know what to purchase with it, consider producing Canary Cry News Talk. You'll feel great for putting the money to good use. God bless, Lily of the Valley.
Very smart.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Thank you very much.
It's not financial advice, but it is
not financial advice, but you know, wisdom. We all got gift cards laying around and you know, don't know what to do with it, end up spending it on something we don't want, don't need. I don't know. If that's you, thank you very much, Lily of the Valley.
Thank you, Lily of the Valley.
Next up, we got Malik W. in the house.
Malik, good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, he's actually on a 3-episode streak. Which means he's heating up.
He's heating up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Malik.
Next up, we got Abe F. coming in with a pocket full of 7s.
Thank you, Abe F.
And he's got a note here. Was first introduced to you guys by Rob Skiba, R.I.P. This is my first time able to pay. Here from Manatee, Puerto Rico.
Whoa.
Ooh, Puerto Rico producer. Okay. I am not subscribed to Netflix. God bless you both very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abe.
F. Manatee, Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
awesome.
maybe we can have some boots on the ground with some of those stories coming out of the PR.
There's some wackadoodle stuff going on over there. Yeah. Next up, we got Tammy C. coming in with a pocket full of 7s.
Thank you, Tammy C.
Note says, have a great show. Love you guys. Also, thanks for the shout out on Twitter, Basil. You're so welcome, Tammy C. Thank you for engaging.
Thank you very much.
On Twitter. Thank you for everybody who's engaging on Twitter. And if you're on Twitter, I know there's at least 1,000 of you that are over there. Start engaging a little bit more. It helps me out. I mean, this is purely me being sort of, I mean, if you want to help me, go ahead, start engaging with my stuff on Twitter. Starting to break through the algos. I like it. Okay. We've got, of course, Sir Moore, Night of the Burning Chariots. He's on a 169 episode streak.
169. Where am I? Thank you, Sir Moore. That's
comes in with 1111.
Yeah.
We also have Sir Alex Protocol V2, Night of the Berean Protocol, pocket full of 7s, 104 episodes in a row.
104.
Oh, yeah!
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. That concludes our list of financial producers who came in the amount of 777 or more, which entitles them to have a note read on the show. We got a few people who came in under that amount. We're just going to thank them real quick. Thank you very much. Starting with Sir Darren out of the Hungry Pandas. Came in a couple times, 75 episodes in a row.
Thank you very much. Remember, we're doing
Next up, we got, we'll do it all at the end.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Next up, we got Dame Gale, Canary Whisper, and Lady of X's and O's.
Thank you,
199 episodes in a row.
Ooh,
yes.
199.
We got Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 235 in a row.
Wow, 235.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Casey.
Veronica D, 199 in a row.
Thank you, Veronica D.
Sir Scott Knight of Truth, 224 in a row.
Ooh, Sir Scott, thank you.
These numbers are crazy.
I know.
And we got Runk Smash coming in 20 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Runk Smash.
Squeakers! Oh, yeah!
Thank you so much.
Going streaking! Come on, everybody, we're going! Woo! Come on!
The street! Fast thing on 2 feet!
Women rule!
Oh yeah! Streakalicious! Streakalicious indeed.
Yep.
Thank you all for producing the show. Remember, you can go over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. All sorts of ways to produce the show, your time, your talent, or your treasure. At the bottom of that support page, you'll see a form. You can fill out that form if you have skills or talents or just time that you want to get involved with the show, help out. There's almost an endless list of things that need to be done. And we really appreciate the producers who volunteer their time to make things happen. We'll thank them a little bit later, but if you want to get involved, that's a great way to get started. Go fill out that form all the way at the bottom of the page, and it'll give us the information we need to start a conversation. And for the rest of you, thank you for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
Yes, it's wake-up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Is it time to say goodbye to YouTube?
Yes, YouTube. Yeah. Time to go find another place to watch the show. If you want your chat to show up on the screen, you can head on over to DLive. That's DLive.tv/Canary Cry News Talk. I'll go ahead and pop this link in here. But we also have Rumble. We have Odyssey. We have, so many other things that I can't even think of it right now. Rockfin, yes. Go over to canarycry.party. You'll find links for all those things. Go catch us on another platform, because what follows is too hot for YouTube.
Which is unfortunate, because all we're doing is reading from the NIH.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure?
Go to Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. You can find all those links at canarycry.party as well. Too hot for YouTube.
YouTube. Now you see me. Now you don't.
It's Corona time. COVID-19. 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 Coronavirus.
I am vaccine. I am vaccine. Vaccine number one way.
Vaccine number one way. Yes. Died suddenly. Guns died suddenly.
Yeah, I was under the impression,
sweeping the attention.
I was under the impression that you were going to watch it, so I didn't. But now I'm realizing neither of us watched it.
Funny, yeah. I don't know why you thought that. Did I say that I was going to watch it?
I thought so, because you were pulling up. You were, I guess, on the website or something. The end of last episode.
Here's the thing. I feel like I don't need to watch it, because the thing that it is about, we have been following since the beginning. I mean, it's generally sort of, COVID vaccine expose. More specifically, it's talking about the blood clots and the morticians who are finding all these crazy blood clots. These are all things that we've known about and been following for many years now. And from what I see and from what people are telling me, there's nothing new if you've been following it since the beginning, which we have. Now, that being said, it's gaining more and more viewers, it's gaining more and more popularity, which is good. I mean, it's something. One thing that's being pointed out by, I would say, some intellectually honest skeptics, people who aren't fans of what's going on in the COVID realm, but I consider intellectually honest. They do point out that this guy, I don't have his name up right now, but the guy who made this documentary was very involved in the snake venom thing.
Same guy.
You remember the snake venom thing?
Yeah, we did a whole breakdown of it,
Yeah, so it's this kind of the same guy, the snake venom thing. I don't know, it was interesting, but also ultimately ended up being pretty shaky. So, people are taking that into account.
Yeah, if I recall, there were mainstream articles talking about how it could have been from snake venom very early on in the whole pandemic situation, and then they went to the bat story. But then it was more of the extrapolation beyond that, which I think was sort of the issue with that last film. But
that was the thing, right? So that's sort of hindered the thing a little bit, but I think that's intellectually honest to be open about that. But it became sort of so popular. And I don't know, it just became so widespread, the knowledge of these, allegedly vaccine-induced blood clots, which, of course, we know the mainstream has also admitted to blood clots of certain kinds stemming from the vaccine. But the NIH, PubMed.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, a wellspring of just hysteria, delivers once more, because we do have this NIH, National Library of Medicine, paper that is making the rounds, and it's titled COVID-19 Vaccines and the Misinterpretation of Perceived Side Effects. Clarity on the safety of vaccines. So, died suddenly. It mentions a lot of different side effects, but the blood clots being the main side effect.
Yeah, the report coming from the affiliations in Australia. So all this is coming from Australia, it seems.
Yes.
Continue.
Now, by the way, one thing that I do like, I don't like it. It's the one interesting thing about Died Suddenly is, where is the outcry from the morticians who are fact-checking this? You don't have a bunch of morticians going on CNN saying that the morticians on Died Suddenly are lying. Nobody's coming out and really refuting it. There's no concerted effort from sort of establishment morticians, which, look, if you're making a living, if your life revolves around the processing of dead bodies, you're already a bit of
you're a little bit of an outcast, but definitely
a little bit of a free thinker.
Sure.
So, I don't know if it's necessarily surprising, but I've not seen any establishment NIH morticians coming out and refuting any of the claims in Died Suddenly. I'm sure that there are claims in Died Suddenly that I would even wince at, but the main one, the blood clot issue, is surprisingly quiet on the home front of the mainstream media. But here's this paper put out by the NIH, and here's the abstract. Okay, so they're trying to put clarity on the perceived side effects of COVID-19 vaccines. In the era of COVID-19 and mass vaccination programs, the anti-vaccination movement across the world is currently at an all-time high. Much of this anti-vaccination sentiment could be attributed to the alleged side effects that are perpetuated across social media from anti-vaccination groups. Fear-mongering and misinformation being peddled by people with no scientific training to terrorize people. There's that word, terrorize people. Now, put those two words together in the same sentence, misinformation, terrorize. You're talking about the Department of Homeland Security, actual terrorism of misinformation. Training to terrorize people into staying unvaccinated is not just causing people to remain susceptible to viral outbreaks, but this is the vaccination hesitant information they're talking about. The information is not only terrorizing people and not getting them vaccinated and causing viral outbreaks, but could also be causing more side effects seen in the vaccination process. So side effects in the vaccination process are being caused by anti-vaccination sentiment. This brief review will offer data that may demonstrate that misinformation perpetuated by the anti-vaccination movement may be causing more deaths and side effects from any vaccine. So anti-vaccine sentiment is literal poison that is causing vaccine side effects. A mini review, oh good, I need a mini review. A mini review of published literature has been conducted. Gons.
They don't have the funding for a full review.
Gonzo.
Yes.
A mini review of published literature has been conducted and found that mental stress clearly causes vasoconstriction and arterial constriction of the blood vessels. Therefore, if subjects are panicked, concerned, stressed, or scared of the vaccination, their arteries will constrict and become smaller in and around the time of receiving the vaccine. This biological mechanism, the constriction of veins, arteries, vessels under mental stress, is the most likely cause for where there has been blood clots, strokes, heart attacks, dizziness, fainting, blurred vision, loss of smell, and taste that may have been experienced shortly after the vaccine administration. The extreme mental stress of the patient could most likely be attributed to the fear-mongering and scare tactics used by various anti-vaccination groups. This paper does not aim to rule out or in every side effect seen, but it is highly likely that many apparent side effects seen shortly after the subject has received vaccine could be the result of restricted or congested blood flow from blood vessel or arterial constriction caused by emotional distress or placebo based on fear around vaccines. The blood clots.
Oh my gosh.
The blood clots are a placebo effect. The heart attacks are a placebo effect. This is the most
This is egregious.
ludicrous.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, this is the NHS. This is our NIH, the American version. The NIH, National Library of Medicine, saying that, oh, no. All these cardiac things, all the blood clots, look, they had a huge list here. The blood clots, the strokes, the heart attacks, dizziness, fainting, blurred vision, loss of smell and taste. Nah, it's all because of the anti-vaxxers stressing people out. Which, look, obviously this makes no sense. Obviously, a bunch of the people who are getting side effects were when they got the vaccine totally on board, huge fans, doing it because it's the right thing to do. They're trusting the science, they're trusting Daddy Fauci, and then boom, something happens and that changes their entire life. Okay. Or sometimes ending it. And for the NIH to come out with an official paper and saying, no, it's not the vaccines causing side effects. It's the anti-vaccination sentiment that is killing people shortly after being vaccinated, of course. It's the fear-mongering. It's the disinfo dozen. It's the Robert Kennedy Jr.'s. It's the podcasters. They're the ones killing all these people, not the vaccine. It is absolutely out of this world, complete madness. And people are using this article. Like, you would think that any sane, critically thinking human who read this could see right through it. And I still think that's true. I think any sane, critically thinking person can see right through it, even if they are pro-vaccine, even if they're pro-lockdown, even if they are cheering on the CCP for tamping down on these crazy COVID conspiracy theorist protesters. Even if that's them, if they got two brain cells to rub together, they can see that this is 100% absolute big pharma propaganda. And the people who are spreading this around, they are simply on autopilot. It's the only explanation that I can let myself believe, Gons.
Yeah. I'm looking through the longer 5-page document that it's accompanied with this abstract that you read through there, and it mentions how mental stress-induced myocardial ischemia, MSIMI, is a condition where blood flow to the heart is restricted due to emotional distress. And I would imagine this is a real thing. I think the sinister part is attributing that to vaccine disinformation, when the mainstream media has been inducing fear in the public for what, 2.5 years now? So it's really just pushing the blame of mainstream media onto the misinformation perpetuated by anti-vaxxers. This is ridiculous. I mean,
and it's exactly what they've been doing all along. Yeah. Everything that they have said about the so-called conspiracy theorists is a direct reflection of what they are guilty of.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful example of, again, just how desperate they are. Simply just how desperate they are. That to have to resort to such absolute bull hockey is, I think, symptomatic. It's symptomatic that the bureaucracy of the American healthcare system, which is barely a bureaucracy, it really is like a money laundering scheme. Yeah. Of course, over 70% of the FDA is funded by the exact corporations they're supposed to regulate. The FDA specifically has a history. 9 out of the last 10 FDA commissioners spanning 40 years immediately go to work in big pharma right after they're done. And the NIH, I imagine, is no different. Of course, we've cataloged Anthony Fauci's
rise and fall.
checkered relationship with the truth and big pharma together. But to put on record in the National Library of Medicine that anti-vaccine misinformation or fear-mongering or whatever, they should have put data in there. The data is causing the very thing that the vaccines are being accused of causing. It's just absolutely on its. I mean, it's so far. It's so,
no words.
It is so
speechless.
It is so. They are. It is so. I can't even articulate it. It is. It stands alone in just how stupid they think we are. And
this is malinformation.
This is harmful.
That's what I'm saying. It's malinformation.
Historians in 100 years, as they're floating around the metaverse with their cyber skins and exploring the cryptic archaeological data from computer servers from 100 years before, they're going to find stuff like this. And it's going to be, it's almost more removed from what we can criticize about, like, the Roman government and during the fall of Rome. Mm-hmm. I mean, if this not only signals, this is the scary part. Okay, I think this is what I'm having trouble articulating. Mm-hmm. The scariest part is that I believe it feels in my heart that this signals the fall of American civilization.
I've been saying that for a while.
The institutions, when the institutions who are charged, let's not even say with truth, but with sort of
some level of integrity,
shepherding the scientific process with integrity, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say anybody expects them to be the arbiters of truth. I think there's a case to be made that they think of themselves that way, and they want us to think of them that way. But even in the loosest possible terms, just simply an honest player in the intersection between the scientific process and the goodness of humanity. These guys are so far away, so far away from being a good actor that future historians are truly not going to have a lot of nice things to say about our society during this time. I don't know what it's going to look like, but
I'm looking at the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency document, the misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. And I'm just going to read the malinformation thing. Malinformation is based on fact, just like this whole thing with, stress causing dilation and whatever, the arteries, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. Isn't that exactly what this NIH paper is doing? They're using a fact and they're placing it out of context to purposely mislead, harm, or manipulate. It's malinformation.
Truly insulting.
Yeah.
It's truly insulting. I'm insulted. They've insulted me.
Well,
now look, I only slept for an hour and a half last night.
Yeah.
So I already feel
disassociated with reality.
Disassociated from reality.
Yeah,
but
no, this is not. You'll remember this as some kind of weird nightmare. You'll wake up tomorrow morning thinking it was all a dream.
Exactly.
And then you'll open your phone up or something and it was all real.
Exactly. That is exactly what's going to happen. I'm disassociating so much from the experience of being a human being reading this that it is almost unreal.
Yeah.
And it goes back to something we talked about, just to get a little weird.
We're not weird enough. We're just going to get weirder.
We've talked about the written word as one of the original original forms of magic, And the thing about magic in its sort of most archaic form is that it is absurd. It's always been absurd. Yeah. It's the absurdity of magic that gives it its power. And when I read something like this, it is so blatantly absurd that whether the magician writing this thing or not is aware of it, and bureaucracy being its own form of, magical institution. If you get deep into it, this is getting weird, but just listen more.
This is right up our alley.
For new people,
what are you talking about?
Listen to more back episodes. I know you get it, Gus.
We've plowed this area before. Yeah.
It is so absurd that it has to be an attempt to sort of magically
speak it into existence.
Magically affect the situation in its pure absurdity. And again, I think it shows simply how desperate they are. They have come so far to the edge of their own abilities that they are crafting a spell like this in hopes that it will literally magically help their situation. This is a Hail Mary. Something big is coming.
Do you think I could see? Yeah, I could see this used for the, I guess, the progressive, woke, left, whatever community to literally start saying it is scientifically proven that if you listen to alt media or alt right or whatever, you are killing people.
We are not even a full step away from that. The foot is coming down. The boot is dropping right now on the list. Simply consuming anti-mainstream narrative content is physically bad for your health. Now go get your vaccine.
Yeah.
And don't be scared, because you'll die if you're scared of the vaccine when you get it. And that's one of the most malicious parts of this, is it's literally telling you.
It's telling you what to be afraid of.
Not just get vaccinated, but don't even feel scared of it. Don't feel hesitant.
Well, be afraid of the virus. Be afraid of
that will kill you.
Right.
If you're worried about the vaccine killing you, just being afraid to get it, even if you still get it and you're afraid to get it, that will kill you. So there's even a thought crime aspect to it.
Well, what if you're afraid of COVID?
That's a good question. Is a medical version of thought crime. What would you even call that? It's like
the scientific dictatorship actually fully coming into view. Like, I don't know. It's pretty obvious.
It truly is a theocracy.
Yeah.
That's a theocratic thought crime, with the punishment being death. It is pure madness, and it is magical. You have to admit that it is magical. I know you do, Gons, but I mean, it is a paradigm shifting operation that they're doing here. And so, do you have anything else to say about that?
No, that's pretty much it. Do you want to do this other thing real quick?
I do, real quick.
Vaccinations. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Here's the thing, folks. The vaccines just keep coming. This is coming from MSN.com. It's mirroring Science Alert. Thank you for those who sent this in. The headline, New Fentanyl Vaccine Eliminates the Drug's High. Rat study finds. You heard that right. Fentanyl vaccine. Importantly, the vaccine did not block the action of other non-fentanyl opioids. Oh, good. Good. So this vaccine will block fentanyl, but you can still take your oxycodone, your OxyContin. Don't worry there, opioid producers. You'll be fine. Importantly, it's the first sentence in the article.
The second sentence. There's a sentence up top. A vaccine that blocks fentanyl.
Oh, there is. You're right. Okay. The second sentence. A vaccine that blocks fentanyl from entering the brain in rats, thus stopping the addictive high, could one day be used to combat the opioid crisis. Talk about problem, reaction, solution. Yeah. Create the opioid crisis. Create a drug that worms its way into the opioid crisis that instantly kills you and anybody who tries to help you, and then create a vaccine for that very drug that you created.
Speaking of the problem, reaction, solution, isn't it interesting that the fentanyl issue stemming from Afghanistan? Is that where, or is it just other countries?
A lot of people, our politicians are blaming it on China specifically.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe. Well, I was just thinking because
sure, it's far and wide.
Yeah. The opioid. Okay. Never mind. I had some thoughts about the never-ending war and us pulling out of Afghanistan, but then seeing sort of the drug effects still kind of, it's like a lagging indicator in society where it disseminates. And then, of course, clamping down with the solution. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, Afghanistan, obviously, still growing a lot of poppies over there. Yeah. A huge amount of our heroin comes from Afghanistan. Importantly, the vaccine did not block the action of the other non-fentanyl opioids, suggesting that it may not prevent pain relief for humans via other means. Quote, we believe these findings could have a significant impact on very serious problem plaguing society for years. Opioid misuse, says University of Houston neuroscientist Colin Haley, the lead author of the study. In the study, researchers gave rats 3 doses of the fentanyl vaccines at 3 weeks intervals. Another group of rats received a placebo. Yes, we know how science works. Researchers took blood samples at regular intervals, showing a buildup, look at this, of anti-fentanyl antibodies levels over time in the vaccinated rats. I did not know. I am not a scientist. I did not know that antibodies, I know that antibodies hunt down and eliminate things like bacteria, viruses, living biological things. But fentanyl, simply an arrangement of molecules that has no life to it, just a chemical in the body. You can have antibodies to a chemical. I did not know that's possible. After the vaccination schedule was complete, the rats were given a dose of fentanyl. To measure whether the vaccine was blocking the painkiller effect of fentanyl, the researchers tested the immunized rats' pain responses by heating up the rats' tails for no more than 10 seconds and seeing how long they took to pull away. Science. Hurting animals for hundreds of years. Now, fentanyl, for someone who needs a review, is a problem. It's a problem because it gets mixed in with other drugs. Mm-hmm. It's a problem because an extraordinarily small amount of it can kill a person, and does every day. 150 people a day dying of fentanyl overdoses, most of it on accident. Things like heroin, street drugs, even cocaine. Recently, highly reported celebrity deaths when they were doing cocaine that had fentanyl in it. Why would you put an opioid in a stimulant? I have no idea, but it happens. Not only do people mostly die of it by taking it accidentally because it's mixed in with drugs to make it more economic for drug dealers. Mm-hmm. But if someone is overdosing on fentanyl and a police officer or an EM, their head, the fentanyl that comes out of their pores gets into the EMT or the police officer, and they can overdose on fentanyl. Okay. There are tons of reports of this happening. It is almost like an opioid. It's like a contagion. Mm-hmm. If you even touch someone who is overdosing, you too can start overdosing on fentanyl. It's an incredibly ruthless drug.
Oh, yeah. The social distance. Wear masks, social distance, wear gloves.
Yeah. So even those who do not use recreational drugs are in the market for a fentanyl vaccine. You could see police officers, EMTs, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, ER people. All these people will be encouraged to take the fentanyl vaccine, not because they're going to take fentanyl, but because they're in close contact with people taking fentanyl. So why would whatever corporate interests that are involved, I'll say corporate and bureaucratic interests involved in allowing fentanyl to come across the borders, which most of it does, it isn't created in the US, most of it. Why would they have any interest in losing money when they could double their profit, let in more fentanyl, because the people who matter, the doctors, the cops, the this, the that, not the, the vagrants or whatever, however they want to be characterized or however they want to characterize them, keep the fentanyl flowing, vaccinate the people who matter, and booyah, you're making, double, triple the profit you were before. Considering that institutions like the CDC, the FDA, are funded by the exact companies who invent fentanyl and the fentanyl vaccine, and. It is truly diabolical in a sort of morbidly dystopian way.
Yep. I think you covered it there.
Fun.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, folks, let's vaccinate ourselves against, not producing the show by thanking some producers. Woo, it's catching up to me, Gons.
Okay.
Break. This is break. Don't just consume the content, but become the content. Become the content.
All right, we're going to take a few minutes here to thank our producers who come in with their God-given talent. Yeah, go ahead and help us build the culture behind the community here at Canary Cry News Talk. All we ask is that you do something for the show. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly today just because running short on time, Basil. This is going a little longer than I was hoping. And
we're going fast. Let's go.
Good thing to say that stuff out loud. But here it is. Okay, we're going to start with SpeakPipe real quick and hear from Rochelle.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
Go to canarycrynewstalk.com. Look for a green tab on the right side or the bottom there. Click on it. It'll give you a pop-up, and you can record a message of up to 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it gives us the right to play it or not. We have one from Rochelle here.
Happy Monday, Canarians. I've got a song for you today. This will be a two-parter, but it kind of reflects all of Ecclesiastes. You know, how the world is useless unless you put Abba Father #1 in your heart. I might talk to you out in the garden. I might see you on the stairs. I won't have to ask for a pardon if I stop and cry right there. Cause and effect are imminent. Pride and shame all the same. Please don't ask me for directions, for I can barely speak his name. I try to live these days like a neighbor. I try to stay lost out of the way. Please pretend that you can't hear me when I laugh, cry, scream, or pray. Stay strong for Jesus.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much, Rochelle.
Woo. Here's
Lovely.
Part 2 later this week. That's it for the speak pipes there. Let's go on to art.
One art, please.
Actually, I'm sorry. Let's do audio production first. My mistake.
Audio production.
All right, we got one here from Brother G.
The president's classified this information top secret. If news like this got out, there would be an overnight breakdown of basic social services worldwide. Rioting, mass religious hysteria, total chaos, you can imagine. Basically the worst parts of the Bible.
Is that Nick Cage?
Yeah, I think it was Nick Cage.
Cage talking worst parts of the Bible going to unfold if this information gets out. Wow. All right. Thank you very much, Brother G. We also got another song from The Days Upon Us. He says, I made another new song for you guys. This is Wandering Spirit Michael, by the way. Oh, okay. If you like any of what you hear, I can take jingle requests. If you guys want me to take a shot at a specific jingle you might want, let me know your thoughts and enjoy the song. It's called Armageddon. We'll play a few seconds.
Here's the thing. We, especially recently, the past few months, it seems as if this show is in a period of reaping what we've sown for a while.
Ooh. I like it.
Fun. I love it.
I like it. Yeah, we'll play the whole thing at the end of the show today. So thank you very much. The Day is Upon Us, or Wandering Spirit Michael. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's do art.
One art, please.
Gonna kick it off with Sir Dove, Knight of Respeltia.
One art, please, from Dove.
And this one is accompanied with a note. And it says, Peace, hope you fellows had a good Thanksgiving. For this week's Bible artwork, I did an illustration for Amos 2:6. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for yins.
Yeah, this seems very relevant to a lot of today's conversations. This is wonderful. Sir Dove, he's got a background picture sort of taken from below of some city power lines there. You see the transformers, you see the power lines, and some shoes hanging from the power lines. And it says right there in beautiful Dove font, they sold the poor for a pair of shoes. And yeah, didn't they ever? Thank you very much, Sir Dove.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's great. And there's that shoe with some kind of angry eyes and a little mouth on his foot too, with the whip swoosh Nike sign.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. And remember, folks, if you would like to support Sir Dove, you can click on his art in the newsletter, and that'll take you to his little shop there. He's got 2 volumes of Bible artwork, just like this, that you can have sitting around, enjoy at your leisure, or perhaps Christmas is coming up. You want to share this type of stuff with somebody. Thank you very much, Sir Dove.
Thank you, Sir Dove. Next, we have Caleb, who did the Everybody Loves Waffles Ben Shapiro GIF.
Yeah.
He also made another GIF, and
the GIF Master.
GIF Master. Yeah, and so I have this one here. I don't know if you can see it, Basil, but this is call 1-800-HOT-CANARY. Single canaries await your call, and it's Fabio. Fabio, there's a little kitty.
Yeah. He's laying by a fireplace. He's got his white get-up on. He's looking very Fabio-y. This must have been before he got hit in the face with that bird.
Yeah, on the roller coaster.
Government drone.
Yeah, the government drone almost took him out on a roller coaster.
Also a callback to some Canary Cry from back in the day, some 2012, 2013 Canary Cry, when Gonza's daughter said, I look like a lesson-shaped Fabio, and it's stuck with me forever. One call 1-800-HOT-CANARY. Single canaries await your call. Oh, there's a little kitty that runs around too. Yeah, I think it's another call, another request for a Canary Cry singles program. We've had a few calls for that over the year. We've even had some. Canarians fall in love at meetups or all sorts of different ways on the forums. So, Canarians, they're perfect for each other. Thank you very much, Caleb.
Thank you, Caleb. We also have one from Jones. Jones has a note here. And actually, Jones sent us a .mov. And I am unable to play it on the actual thing. But there's a screenshot of it, so we see the pyramid there and the sun kind of spinning. And he has a note. It's Jones here.
Proton Mail?
Huh? Maybe.
Did this come in on the Proton Mail? Okay, y'all. Possibly, yeah. Thank you very much for sending stuff in. Y'all should try the portal. Try the upload portal at canarycry.art. Sorry, I'm pulling it up on the Proton Mail.
Sure, yeah, he has a note here. It's Jones here. Bonds had asked for some 3D art a while back, and I thought to myself, well, my last audio submission managed to ever so slightly raise the googly eyebrows of Basil's intrigue, and so I shall keep striving for Daddy's approval, sticking to the theme of Africa. I accidentally went overboard with this little pyramid, given the time it took, but I think it's educational for me so that I can know how long certain things take to do. Best regards, Jones. And then he has a PS here, a couple things, and he says, I tried to use the canarycry.art portal, but it insisted that I log into my Google account. I felt uncomfortable with that, perhaps irrational. I could try another account next time.
Into a Google account.
Yeah. So yes, I would have switched it over to MP4 so we can play the audio. Maybe we'll do that next episode. I don't know.
I like the image though. I'm trying to pull it up on mine too. It's not doing very good. Maybe I'll download it. We'll see. Thank you very much, Producer Jones.
Producer Jones, thank you. And
it's very cool. It's like a cool. very, very ominous looking pyramid that seems to be sort of falling apart brick by brick with a big rising or setting sun behind it. Yeah. Very epic looking.
Yeah. We'll leave it up for the microfiction.
Microfiction.
Kick it off with Wrong Smash.
Faithfully, Chris told Tracy of the love of God and the love of his people and how it was worth it to come back if one other person would learn about him. This story spread by word of mouth so quickly the controllers had to issue a PSA about warming. Oh no, it's catching on, Gons. WOM, W-O-M, warming, word of mouthing. Maybe that's how the Chinese are getting their coordination together.
Oh yeah, Apple can't do anything about that warming. Neither can the CCP.
They can't censor that word of mouth, folks.
Well, they could, actually.
Thank you very much, Runk Smash.
Thank you, Runk Smash. All right, we got one more here from the Sentinel.
The healer patches the barbarian up. She rubs a fungal cream over the wound. It may make you a little loopy, but it'll work, she says sweetly. The barbarian's vision begins. You know those barbarians, they're famous. Those Vikings are famous for their hallucinogenic mushroom trips. Thank you very much, The Sentinel. Thank you very much to all of our artists who don't just consume the content, they become the content. So if you're a creative person out there, no matter what you do, create something for the show. We'd love to feature it on the show. You can start by heading over to canarycry.art. Canarycry.art. Nice little form, upload portal there. You can upload your art to the show, and we'd love to do it. If that doesn't work for you, you can email it to canarycryradio@gmail.com.
All right, one last story here. Thank you to all the producers there.
Nephilim update.
All right, we're gonna.
Gons, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for old Loopy Boy to take over the Nephilim update.
Oh, good. I barely talked this episode. I think
welcome
it's pretty
to
much
the
been
Basil
all
Show,
year.
everybody.
I don't have to say much. I'm just pushing buttons over here.
Well, did you read it? I was going to summarize it so we don't have to read it.
Well, let me read a couple sentences and then you can summarize.
Okay.
Okay, so this is from the National Geographic, and the headline here is "The Legend of the Demon Cat That Roams the U.S. Capitol." And, of course, the Nephilim update because, demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, the giants of the...
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. Well, they need bodies, so, they found a cat, apparently. Mysteries about the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. abound, from rumors it was cursed by an engineer who died during construction to reported sightings of a ghostly Capitol librarian. But the most enduring may be the legend of a terrifying demon cat that roams the nation's legislative halls. Since its first rumored appearance in the 1890s, the so-called demon cat, known as DC, has left a trail of terrified people in its wake. Some say it has appeared before tragic events like the stock market crash of 1929 or President John F. Kennedy's 1963 assassination. Here's how this spooky myth got started and why it persists today. And I don't necessarily want to go through all of it here.
Yeah, puts together a very thorough history of just demon cats like across the world.
Generally demon cats.
It's like, what is a cat? What is a demon? What is a demon cat?
What is National Geographic doing writing about demon cats? Is this from, are they running out of archaeological things to discuss? They got to go with the demon cat?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they're like the History Channel.
Mm-hmm. They need clicks. They got to go more and more supernatural. Yeah, it seems to be the trend.
They do finally get to how the DC's demon cat legend began.
Okay.
In 1898, DC-based journalist Renee Bach wrote about the ghostly apparitions supposedly associated with the U.S. Capitol building, calling it probably the most thoroughly haunted in the world. Wow. I do not doubt that, actually, the U.S. Capitol building being the most thoroughly haunted in the world.
I like how they were talking about that in 1898. This is right during that spiritualist movement. So that's very interesting.
It's right in the midst of American spiritualist movement.
Yeah, the theosophy exploding late 1800s. Yeah, interesting.
Especially when the occult was less concerned with hiding itself as it expresses itself in our government. Bach described the feline spook as a cat that grew from an ordinary sized animal into the size of an elephant before people's eyes.
There it is. It's a Nephilim.
It's a Nephilim cat, Gons, claiming that the Phantom had been frightening congressmen and others in the building since 1862. There would have been plenty of people around to spot a mysterious cat around the Capitol building at the time, says Samuel Holliday, the U.S. Capitol Historical Society's director of scholarship. During that early year of the Civil War, just to put this in perspective... The Civil War. This demon cat was.
So why are they bringing it? Was it seen again? Is that why we're talking about it? Like only bad things happen right after the cat is seen. Are people seeing the cat again?
Ooh, maybe there's a January 6th sighting.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's a demon cat today section, but a set of feline footprints may be the biggest driver of the demon cat's fame. They can be found on the cement floor of the small Senate rotunda near the entrance to the old Supreme Court chamber. So in the small Senate rotunda, you've got the demon cat's footprints, the very footprint of a demon in the rotunda, the small Senate one. I don't even know what that is. It's hyperlinked. I'll learn more about that. The architect of the Capitol. Yes.
I'm just reading further down. The number of reported complaints is interesting.
Sure. Yes, indeed. We can probably skip there. Talks about some other stuff. They got talk about
article talks about other stuff.
Demon cat. Mostly just a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of
seeing
demon
a
cat stuff. Yeah.
You get it. There's an explosion in 1898. An explosion they attribute to the malicious cat, even though the official record says it was a gas explosion. These believers also say the initials DC carved into the same floor stand for demon cat.
Wow, so the demon cat knows how to spell too. This is pretty impressive.
Yes.
This is like he's like an early graffiti artist.
Yes, he's a demon cat. Who can, sign his work. Though the footprints and initials have been preserved inside the Capitol building for posterity, Living Good told Atlas Obscura in 2018 that there haven't been any demon cat sightings in recent years, Gons.
That's a bummer.
Not so for the Capitol's infamous rats.
Oh, we're moving on to rats.
Yeah, listen to this.
Nephilim rats.
This is why... A rodent infestation was reported at the nearby U.S. House of Representatives Child Care Center in early 2022. This year, Gons. And brown rats have made a big post-lockdown comeback in the district. The Washington Post reports, you're telling me, get those rats out of Washington. Right, Gons?
Yeah.
With a reported 13,300 complaints. 13300 complaints during the 2022 fiscal year.
That's a lot of complaints.
Yes, and it's the fiscal year. It's not even the calendar year.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's time for the demon cat to make a reappearance.
Are they summoning the demon cat?
They want to summon the demon cat. We have
National Geographic is summoning a Nephilim demon cat to take care of the rodent problem.
Exactly.
Talk about problem reaction solution. Talk about the white knight. This is incredible.
I was talking to a fella that I hope we can do some work with.
Ooh, okay.
It's a little tough though, because he's a bit more on the occult side of things. It's kind of a straight up occultist.
Making your Freemasonic friends and trying to work with them here. What's going on?
I was doing my thing. I was doing, for those who have caught my other work at the Joyspiracy Theory, I'm not here to judge nobody. I just wanna hear what he's got to say. And we actually had an interesting experience because what we talked about more than anything was the blatant use of occult ritual in the government.
Right. I think you mentioned this conversation.
I mentioned this to you. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned it on air.
Maybe.
This fella, huge occultist, we had this long conversation, and he had a lot of insight about even current administrations. Now, we've all talked about Aleister Crowley in World War II and how, Hitler's occult interests, the UK using occult rituals to win the war, the US being founded on occult rituals, things like this, the occult being so prevalent in the past. But this guy is pro-occult. And he had a lot of things to say and complain about the current administration and some of their occult rituals that, these things. We've talked about it before. Some of them are sort of secret, robed in basements and things like that. And some of them are public. I mean, that's what a lot of occult ritual gains power from. Hiding in plain sight, from the attention. It's the attention that it can draw that gives it much of its power. And, we had a strange experience, sort of, I won't say bonding, but maybe finding common ground in the displeasure of our government using occult ritual for political gain. And I think the National Geographic here is onto something. I think we need to keep an eye out. I think we need to start contacting pest control companies in the DC area. We need to track down which witch or wizard they will be employing to summon the demon cat. This is now my life's work. And if anybody has any leads, please let me know.
Well, I just want to land the plane here by mentioning that while the demon cat is being summoned apparently by Washingtonians, the coolest cat of them all, Basil, you know which one it is? Well, there's a couple of them. Well, there's first off the lion. That's one of the beasts that's in front of God in Revelation 4:7. But more specifically, the coolest cat of them all, of course, is Revelation 5:5, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who's the only one, the root of David, was conquered so that he can open the scrolls and its 7 seals, so he can unleash judgment upon the world. So yeah, the demon cat can try, but another cat already sort of, did the thing. So
yeah,
good luck there, demon cat.
It reminds me, I did a Joyspiracy Theory episode with Michael Basham, and he told me about his experiences with what he calls heavenly battle cats.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I forget which episode that is, but if you search the Joyspiracy Theory, look for the one with Michael Basham. You can hear about the heavenly battle cats. Yeah, and by the way, when I say doing work, I forget how I worded it, with this occultist person.
Conversation.
I'm interested in maybe getting a podcast with him, have him talk about, he's a first-hand
practitioner
practitioner of the occult, and to have, you can hear us talk about the government doing occult rituals all the time. We've been doing that for 10 years. But to have an actual occult practitioner give us some insight.
He's giving criticisms too, like, man, they need to do better. He's trying to get a consulting job with the Biden administration. So
it's a long story. Okay. I don't want to give away his whole thing. I don't want to give away his whole thing for now. But anywho, we'll work on that. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to come back next time. We'll be back on Wednesday. We've got so much more stories to catch up on, including on Russia, Ukraine, etc. And thank you to all of our producers. Thank you to our executive producer, Lata. For helping, doing a lot of work to make sure this show happens. Yep. Yeah. Thank you to our artists. And, of course, thank you to our producers who help us out with their time. There's a lot of producers doing a lot of work for this show, and they do it simply to put value back in, and it's really incredible. An example of that is our Clippies. Clipping all those videos. Thanks. Yeah, Emsworth and Faye Liverin, really, thank you guys so much. Faye Liverin, by the way, put together the clip that we played at the beginning of the show. She did it in like a day or less. It was incredible. So thank you very much, Faye Liverin, for that. Faye. Thank you, Emsworth. They're making sure the clips, this show gets clipped out, broken down into smaller pieces. It's available on the Canary Cry Clips channels on Odyssey and YouTube. Go check it out. Leave a message for them. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Yep. Speaking of which, thank you to the Timestamper. Timestamp. It's hard work. Timestamp. Yes, the timestamps are so important. So much of what we do on this show, it's a lot of the back end stuff includes these timestamps. It's an incredibly important job. And the timestampers, they work hard. It's a hard job. And I want to thank Jade Bouncerson for doing the timestamps for episode 563. Thank you very much. Thank you to our social media gal.
Social media. Nope, wrong one. Social media
consultant.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Social media, follow us.
Thanks to Dame Miss G, the OV in the Deep Rivers, making sure our art gets up on the social media. I'm just going to breeze through the next couple ones. Okay. Meetups, go to canarycrimeetups.com. We got one on the 11th in Silver Dollar City.
Yes, sir.
And thank you to those who are leaving us ratings and reviews. When we take a little break like this, it's rough, man. Playing the charts game on the YouTube, on the Apple Apple Podcasts is rough. It's rough. We fell out of the charts for not doing a podcast in a week. So we got to get back in those charts, baby. And one of the greatest ways to help us get back on those charts is to leave us ratings and reviews. I had somebody ask about Apple and what's their censorship situation with Apple Podcasts. It's a longer conversation, which I will save for another episode. So thank you. Leave us ratings and reviews. This is incredibly helpful.
Yep.
And other than that, thanks, Jam, for the links. Thank you, Clankiniphius, for our personal assistance. And other than that, just share the show. Word of mouth. Wom,
baby.
Share the show with your friends, your family. Post it on social media. Go grab a clip from the Clips channel. So many ways that you can help the show out. And so many ways that cannot be censored and stopped by big global corporations that have some sort of profit motive to keep this show from being successful. And fighting back is not just good for Gons and I, but it's a participation in a revolution where we decide as the people that we do not need corporate interests involved in our independent media. And you can share this show in all sorts of ways. You don't have to do the normal ways. You can do it all sorts of funky ways. You can become some sort of scientist, work your way up the scientific community, and go to school. And I don't know, you probably won't even need good grades pretty soon to become a scientist. I'm pretty sure you could just call yourself a scientist nowadays, and go ahead and do that and release a study. Get it published on the NIH website, the medical library, the National Library of Medicine. And it's not just anti-vaccine misinformation that's causing deaths of vaccine or side effects, but there is a way to combat the madness that you can contract, quite literally, the mind virus that comes from the mainstream media, and that is Canary Cry News Talk. Go on, folks. Go talk to your doctor about Canary Cry News Talk. The side effects may include free thinking, critical thinking, sleeping well, or not sleeping at all. I don't know. This is a weird one. Go listen to Canary Cry News Talk and feel better. Dun, 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 dun.
I just want to mention that we're at 91 people watching on Rumble, which I think is the highest that I've seen.
That's enormous. Yeah, it was a really big live crowd today.
Yeah.
I mean, for end of show to have 91 people on Rumble is unheard of.
Yeah.
So
hello, Rumble people. Thanks
for
Rumble people watching us on Rumble.
Indeed. And 46 over on D Live. I mean, for a credits sequence to have this many people watching is pretty impressive. Appreciate it, everybody.
Yep.
All right. Go forth and share the show. We like to call it rattling cages. If you need any other instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! Don't ever silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gons, any last words?
Uh-oh. Did I turn that thing too far down? It's so quiet.
It's pretty far down.
Hey, there we are. Okay. Tomorrow, 1935, physicist Erwin Schrödinger publishes Schrödinger's cat. Or did he? Depends on where you're looking at the
whether it was observed.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of fun stuff you can find on the Canary Cry calendar, folks. Yeah. Look, we really hope that we can get more people to sign up for the supply drop. I'm being honest. We need it. We need more supply droppers if we're going to survive this next year. And you got to get the calendar, man. You got 3 more days. 3 days. Go to canarycrysupply.com. Sign up, support the show. It really helps us out. And you get cool stuff, man. It's good.
Yep.
canarycrysupply.com. I'll probably send out a text and an email about it tomorrow as well. Okay. So keep an eye out for that. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time and get some sleep. But until then, think outside the sleep.
reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, gold. Bye!
He's a Satanist, but one of the Satanist churches here where they sacrifice babies.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Give me a break.
Here's the thing. We, especially recently, the past few months, it seems as if this show is in a period of reaping what we've sown for a while.
The world is at risk of a nuclear Armageddon. 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 Armageddon.
Armageddon's on the way. We've come to a point in society where pretty much everything that we've been talking about has gone from the realm of crazy conspiracy theory or whatever to real life. Where do we even go from here?
There's a giant storm coming. Some of the crazier things we've said over the years coming into reality. People who know what's going on and see the absurdity, and then people that are completely within that bubble.
Armageddon's on the way.
Goodbye, everybody. And that's the end. And everyone says, oh, that was fun.
Bye, 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 bye.
I'm out of here. Bye.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support